Chapter 768. If I don't give, who dares to snatch from me? There was pin-drop silence in the control room. No one spoke up for Sun Yuanju. No one dared to say anything about Wang Ting donating his scriptures. They finally understood the difference between them and Wang Ting. A wisp of his aura made it hard for them to look him in the eye. How powerful was he? They had no chance of showing off their little tricks due to the vast difference in ability. The leader of martial arts didn't say anything and just watched them quietly from the side. He allowed Wang Ting to solve this matter himself. To him, Wang Ting's ability was the best way to convince and frighten them. Punish someone as a warning to others. Since Sun Yuanju had jumped out, he would be the one getting punished. Wang Ting glanced around him calmly. Weren't you speaking just now? Why are you silent? Commander Guardian Sun, don't you want to continue talking? Sun Yuanju's expression changed slightly. He felt unlucky. He raised his head and met Wang Ting's composed gaze. He stammered, "It's a misunderstanding. I was just," he stuttered and was incoherent. "Just?" Wang Ting gave him an ambiguous smile. Sun Yuanju couldn't answer him. He knew that Wang Ting had heard his words. There was no use speaking up for himself. If Wang Ting wanted to take revenge, he wouldn't give up because of his excuses. Wang Ting stopped wasting time. An indomitable aura erupted from his body and bore down on Sun Yuanju. Boom! Sun Yuanju was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Wang Ting to act without any scruples. Without any time to react, he got enveloped by his aura. Bang! The chair below him shattered into pieces, and he fell to the ground. Splurt! He spurted a mouthful of blood. Sun Yuanju became dispirited. His face was pale as he stared at Wang Ting in astonishment. He moved his lips but didn't dare to say a word. He climbed up from the ground miserably and stumbled a little. Everyone was shocked as they stared at this scene in bewilderment, not knowing what to say for a second. Especially the people sitting beside Sun Yuanju. When Wang Ting's aura surged over, they felt it too. Their hearts were still pounding in fear. Imagine if they were the target of the attack. They might be in a worse state than Sun Yuanju. No one expected Wang Ting to be so domineering. He suppressed a 13-star General Stage Commander Guardian without any hesitation. This was a tight slap to Sun Yuanju's face. Many people felt lucky that they didn't speak. If not, they might be in the same tragic state. Qian Boyu, Zhao Fuhong, and the other important figures who had met Wang Ting before glanced at one another. They felt as if they just knew him. The polite young man they knew must be a fake, right? These important figures finally realized that Wang Ting wasn't someone they could control easily. Wang Ting resumed his indifference and spoke in a calm tone, "If you have anything to say it directly to me. If you talk behind my back, don't blame me for being merciless. You can only take the things I want to give. If I don't give, who dares to snatch from me?" He scanned everyone, but no one replied to him. No one even dared to look him in the eye. Wang Ting was satisfied with this result. Suddenly, a smile blossomed on his face, and he continued, "All right, I've finished my speech. Don't be so serious. You look as if he'll eat you up." Silence. Everyone was speechless. "Didn't you look like you'll really eat us up just now? Stop pretending like you don't know," they complained as they looked at Wang Ting's smiley face. "Continue acting. Go on." Despite being young, this fellow was a good actor. Which one was the real him? "Oh right, if you want the higher level scripture, you can tell me directly. If you don't say, how will I know you want it? Look, everyone is unhappy at your little cheap tricks. Was it necessary?" Wang Ting suddenly said. Everyone was honestly stunned this time. It seemed like Wang Ting was willing to take out his higher level scripture. What did he mean by telling him directly? Who would have thought that he would say it himself? Sun Yuanju's face turned green. If he knew that Wang Ting wanted to share his scripture, he wouldn't have made that speech and be the bad guy. Now, he had provoked Wang Ting for nothing. The loss outweighed the gains. He was filled with bitterness. Why didn't Wang Ting say it earlier? Why? If he did, he wouldn't have stepped out and be the first to speak. The leader of martial arts and the three great commanders looked at Wang Ting in surprise. They didn't think that Wang Ting would give out his scriptures so easily. Moreover, he was the one to bring it up. He was the one who wanted to reveal it. Did he have such a high sense of responsibility? When the meeting ends, the leader will evaluate everyone's qualifications. After that, you can get the scripture from me. Wang Ting sniggered in his heart when he saw everyone's expression. We need to go through an evaluation? Everyone was stunned. Of course. If I give my planetary stage scripture to someone with an unknown or evil motive, I will be holding a candle to the devil, Wang Ting replied. Planetary stage scripture? Their eyes lit up. That's right. The next level after the general stage is the planetary stage. If you want to reach that level, you need to have a planetary stage scripture, Wang Ting explained briefly. Planetary stage. Excitement burned in everyone's eyes. They looked at him enthusiastically. You have witnessed the power of the planetary stage. One planetary stage martial warrior is powerful enough. This is a special moment. We need to be extra careful. I don't want to create an enemy, Wang Ting continued. Everyone's expression changed slightly. They felt fortunate that they weren't Wang Ting's enemy. If not, they would lose this amazing opportunity. They immediately agreed to Wang Ting's idea. Yes, you're right. Yes, I second the idea. It makes so much sense. Yes, we should do it like this. I'll be the first to support you. The Ministry of Education supports you too. Everyone felt that the matter should be resolved this way. They had no grudges against Wang Ting, so they weren't worried. Only one person's face was black. He looked as though he fell into a drain. Many people noticed his emotions and looked at Sun Yuanju strangely. If there was an evaluation, Commander Guardian's son would be the first to fail. TSK. At this moment, they finally understood Wang Ting's intention. Stick and candy. His scheme was amazing. He punished Sun Yuanju to warn the rest of them, letting them fear him. Then, he took out his scripture, which made everyone grateful. He captured their hearts instantly. Was this Willy Fox a young man who hadn't reached 20? Chapter 769, Trial Ground. The atmosphere in the room changed because of Wang Ting's words, going from tense to lively. I've already said what I wanted. Let's start the meeting officially. Wang Ting glanced at everyone. There was joy in his eyes. He was already planning to reveal his planetary stage scriptures. All his 5 basic elements had advanced to the planetary stage. The blue-haired young man, who was at the 3rd level of the planetary stage, wasn't his match, so he didn't need to worry about anyone surpassing him. Besides, it wasn't easy to advance to the planetary stage. Converting their forces to constellation force would consume most of their time, much less the most crucial part of the advancement process. Many people wouldn't be able to overcome that barrier. Wang Ting was certain that most of the people in this room wouldn't be able to reach the planetary stage. Some of them were too old. They had exhausted their potential, and there was a limit to how far they could go. Of course, the most important thing was, Wang Ting would only give them the conversion method in the planetary stage scripture. After they finished converting their forces, he would consider giving them the advancement method. He hadn't finished his sentence. Do you want the advancement method? Sure. Give me money. These words weren't suitable for this situation. When they came to look for him to get the scripture in the future, he would discuss the price with them properly. In summary, he wouldn't give his scriptures out easily. No one knew what Wang Ting was planning. They were still immersed in their excitement and couldn't calm down. They were daydreaming about advancing quickly after receiving the scripture. They didn't know that their assets would be gone. Cough. The leader of martial arts finally regained his composure. He coughed and attracted everyone's attention. Then, he said, let's have Dan Taixian report the status of the alien invasion. Yes. Dan Taixian let out a long sigh. Even she felt nervous a moment ago. She was afraid that Wang Ting would vent his anger on all the important figures present, but luckily, he only targeted one. It wasn't outrageous. She hurriedly stood up when she heard the leader calling for her and turned on the projector. A world map shone on the wall opposite. Based on the information we have received, there are signs of aliens in every big country on Earth, including the White Eagle Nation, Country Inca, Country Star, and Country Bat. They have all been conquered by aliens. The participants started to turn serious. They stared at the red spots marked on the map. Besides Country Shia, all the other areas were red. This meant that they were all invaded and taken over by aliens. It was a terrifying sight. Everyone was solemn. The situation was worse than expected. Not much information could be found, so Dan Taixian finished her report soon. The control room turned silent. All of you understand the situation now. Every large country has been invaded by aliens. I have a reason to believe that they have a special purpose. If not, they wouldn't take over all the countries at the same time, the leader said. What do they want? Someone asked. Everyone went into deep thought. They couldn't guess the aliens' motive. They knew that the aliens came to Earth for an opportunity, but them landing in different parts of Earth made them a little confused. Stop wasting your time. Well, know the answer by asking the blue-haired alien, Wang Ting suddenly spoke up. Everyone was stunned. Someone hesitated before asking, will he say the truth? Don't worry. I have a way to make him speak the truth, Wang Ting said confidently. Bring the person over. The leader ordered his men to bring the blue-haired young man. The swelling on the blue-haired young man's face had subsided. It was hard to tell that he was once beaten like a dog. His recovery rate was astonishing. But he was still unconscious and hadn't woken up. His face healed quite quickly. It looks like he can withstand another round of the brick's caress. Wang Ting touched his chin and muttered to himself. Everyone. Caress your head. This fellow called brick smashing the caress of the brick. How shameless. Heh. Where am I? The blue-haired young man woke up right then and rubbed his head. He glanced around him absent-mindedly. Stop pretending. You're exaggerating, Wang Ting smirked. Everyone. This alien was acting. They didn't realize a thing. They were surprised. How did this guy discover it? The blue-haired young man was puzzled. However, he still pretended to be lost and continued, What are you saying? I don't understand. What do you want? I don't want to waste any time. I'll ask questions, and you'll answer. If you dare lie, my brick won't show any mercy. Wang Ting took out his golden brick and waved it in front of the blue-haired young man. The young man felt the corners of his eyes twitching. He immediately recalled the unpleasant memory. He wished he could snatch the brick and smash it on Wang Ting's face. But he knew that he was in Wang Ting's hands and couldn't escape. Thus, he wouldn't have the power to snatch the brick over and repay the favor. What do you want to know? He forcefully suppressed the humiliation in his heart. Why did you all come to Earth? Wang Ting asked. There's nothing to hide. We came to find an opportunity on this planet, the blue-haired young man replied with a flicker in his eyes. What else? What else can there be? That's it. You're not being honest. Wang Ting squinted. He tossed the brick in his hand and got ready to smash it on the blue-haired young man's head, scaring the poor fellow. He almost charged forward and fought for his life. This brat was a monster. How dare he still want to smash his head with the brick? He couldn't bear it anymore. Damn it, if you do it again, I'll fight with you. The blue-haired young man glared at Wang Ting, unwilling to back down. I was waiting for you, idiot. A smirk appeared at the edge of Wang Ting's lips. His eyes flashed with crimson light. Bewitch. Wang Ting had already raised his bewitch skill to the perfected stage. With the help of his Imperial Realm Spirit, he never failed. The blue-haired young man's expression changed. Before he could react, he went into a daze, and his gaze turned blurry. I succeeded. Wang Ting was stunned. He was prepared to have a spiritual battle. After all, when he used the bewitch skill on Shodidi the previous time, he struggled for a long time before he succumbed. This blue-haired young man's ability was above Shodidi's, so he thought that it would be harder. Yet the blue-haired young man lost his consciousness almost instantly. Is it related to one's mentality? Wang Ting touched his chin and pondered. Shodidi was a sly old fox while this blue-haired young man was a greenhorn who had just entered the society. He lacked vigilance, so he fell into Wang Teng's trap easily. Other people didn't know what Wang Teng was doing, but they were stunned when they saw the blue-haired young man's confused look. Now, answer me. What's your real purpose? Wang Teng didn't explain to them. He started questioning the man right away. Many months ago, the Olent Federation detected this planet where force had awakened. At the same time, the top academy in the Olent Federation, St. Star Pagoda, is recruiting new students. Hence, they decided to use this planet as a trial ground. We can only enter the St. Star Pagoda if we pass this trial, the blue-haired young man said with no emotions in his eyes. Trial ground. St. Star Pagoda. Everyone was astounded. Then, they started to get furious. They are using our planet as a trial ground. Commander Long was indignant. He slammed the table heavily, causing a long bang. So this is their real motive. The opportunity isn't the main thing. Passing the test is their final mission, Commander Yong said. Snatching the opportunity might be part of their trial. Someone snorted. Our planet is extremely underdeveloped, so we'll obviously get beaten. We're just a remote planet. We have no chance of resisting, the Minister of Education said as he shook his head. Is the trial only for you? Wang Ting asked a question that surprised many people. No. The trial doesn't only include the talents from Olent Federation. It's also applicable to all the martial warriors on this planet. Any gifted martial warriors 30 years old and below that have reached the planetary stage have the chance to participate. It's difficult to get the chance, but as the trial ground, Olent Federation gave 3 spots to this Earth. However, Earthlings don't know about it. They must be dreaming if they want to get a spot. There are a limited number of spots. If Earth gets 3 spots, the martial warriors from other planets will have 3 lesser spots. Hence, no one told the Earthlings this piece of news, the blue-haired young man continued. What? Everyone exchanged glances with one another. They were dumbstruck and furious. What a good plan they have. As long as no one on Earth gets a slot, those 3 slots will be theirs, Commander Hong said angrily. It looks like this isn't just a simple school enrollment, Commander Yong said with a glint in his eyes. Trial. Spots. The eyes of the leader of martial arts lit up. He opened his mouth and said, unfortunately, only those 30 years old and below have the right. We don't even have to think about it. Everyone shook their heads. They couldn't hide their disappointment. They would be lying if they said that they didn't have hope. However, based on what the blue-haired young man said, only a planetary stage martial warrior 30 years old and below had the chance. 30 years old. The planetary stage. No one here fulfilled these 2 criteria. No, there was one person. Everyone looked at Wang Teng with envy. They didn't have the chance, but he did. Chapter 770. Monitor the entire planet. Wang Teng was contemplating the blue-haired young man's words when he noticed everyone staring at him. There was strong envy in their eyes. He was stunned for a moment. Then, he understood why. The blue-haired young man's words must have been a huge stimulation to everyone. The St. Star Pagoda was the top academy in the Olent Federation. If they could study there, there would definitely be ample benefits. But they had lost this precious opportunity. Well, it was more appropriate to say that they had never gotten it, so they couldn't lose it. From the beginning, they didn't meet the requirements. Don't act as if you lost $1 billion. Who knows what the St. Star Pagoda is like? I might not want to go, Wang Ting comforted them with a nonchalant expression. Silence. This consolation didn't have any effects. Instead, they wanted to beat him up even more. He didn't want to go. Look at what he was saying. Indeed, talk was cheap. Get out of this place, bastard. Everyone stared at him with hidden bitterness. They didn't want to speak to him anymore. Cough, Wang Teng, question him and see if you can get any other useful information, the leader of martial arts coughed and said. Wang Teng nodded. He thought for a moment before asking, how many candidates are there? No one knows which factions will get the right to participate in this trial. My Lan family was extremely fortunate to get 1 slot after spending much manpower and wealth, the blue-haired young man replied. His gaze was rigid and stiff. Wang Teng frowned. Things were getting complicated. He exchanged glances with the leader. They thought of the same thing. From the blue-haired young man's explanation, they inferred that this trial was targeted at the gifted disciples groomed by powerful factions. Normal martial warriors wouldn't be able to get the right to participate. Even if they did, they would only make up a small fraction. They could imagine how hard these talents groomed by powerful factions would be to deal with. One's background was a strong factor. Wang Ting wanted to ask about the strength of the aliens that had landed on Earth, but from the looks of it, he wouldn't be able to get any answers from the blue-haired young man. He didn't even know who they were or how many people there were. How would he know their abilities? Wait. Wang Ting thought of something. He couldn't get a specific answer, but he might be able to guess a range. He asked quickly, "Are there any strength requirements for the trial?" By right, there isn't. However, reaching the planetary stage before 30 years old is the limit for most martial warriors. In history, only a handful of gifted martial warriors have reached the celestial stage before 30. In my generation, less than 3 martial warriors have gained this achievement. They have already been specially admitted into different famous academies in the universe and don't need to participate in this trial, the blue-haired young man said. The celestial stage. Everyone started pondering. The planetary stage, the celestial stage. These two names sounded high and mighty, just like the universe. No one had experienced the power of these two stages, but just listening to the name was enough to get them excited. They wanted to go home and start cultivating immediately. As the top-tier martial warriors on Earth, they had their own extravagant hopes for the powerful realms. All of them wished that they could climb to the peak and look at the scenery from a higher mountain. Wang Ting's eyes were shining too. He saw a wider world opening up in front of him. It was attractive. After some time, he sighed secretly, and a sharp glint flashed past his eyes. Based on the blue-haired young man's words, it wasn't hard to tell that none of the invaders had surpassed the planetary stage. Wang Ting had the confidence to deal with a planetary stage formidable warrior, but asking him to fight against a celestial stage martial warrior was akin to gifting his life on a silver platter. Fortunately, there weren't any martial warriors at this stage on Earth. Since they were all at the planetary stage, it would be easier for them to have duels. A smile appeared on Wang Ting's face. There must be many planetary stage formidable warriors among the aliens. He would definitely be able to get some attributes from them. Everyone looked at his face and felt that his smile was a little evil. Was he conjuring some evil plan? Wang Ting asked a few more questions. They were mostly about the Olent Federation, the Saint Star Pagoda, and information about the Lan family. The blue-haired young man answered without reservation. Very soon, everyone had a better understanding of the Olent Federation. In summary, the Olent Federation was a universe alliance formed by many factions. It was one of the top 5 powerful factions in the universe. Yes, top 5. Olent Federation wasn't the only major power in the universe. The blue-haired young man didn't know about the other powerful factions, so Wang Ting didn't ask for the details. One Olent Federation was strong enough to destroy them, much less the other factions or the entire universe. The Saint Star Pagoda was the biggest and most powerful academy in the Olent Federation. It had groomed numerous formidable warriors in the universe. You could say that this was a holy location in the Olent Federation. The Saint Star Pagoda would open for enrollment every 3 years. The criteria would be planetary stage martial warriors 30 years old and below. They would need to participate in a trial. Only qualified people would be admitted into the academy. This time, Earth was chosen as the trial ground. Who would assess their scores at the end of the trial? Wang Ting knew the answer through the blue-haired young man. It was better if he didn't. After hearing the answer, everyone in the control room turned eerily silent. They realized that someone was monitoring and watching over the entire planet. That meant that someone was watching all their actions. They might have clearly seen everything that they had done. No one doubted the young man's words. After all, the technological advancement of the alien civilization had exceeded their imagination. It was possible they could monitor the entire planet. They felt uncomfortable after learning that they were under surveillance. Their expressions turned awkward. Who wanted to be watched all the time? What if the person was a pervert? What if the person was a peeping Tom? What if the person had some weird fetish? Everyone shuddered in their hearts. They raised their heads and looked at the ceiling, trying to find the eye that was watching them. Can the Saint Star Pagoda see everyone's actions? Wang Ting took a deep breath to force himself to calm down. Not everyone, mainly the candidates. They wouldn't see everything since there are only a few surveillance. They can only focus on a few events. But they know what's happening around the personal terminal of the candidate, the blue-haired young man explained. Personal terminal? Wang Ting relaxed a little. That's good. That's more acceptable. The other people heaved a sigh of relief too. They felt much better. Where's your personal terminal? Wang Ting's gaze turned sharp. Chapter 771. It's better to kill him. The blue-haired young man raised his hand and displayed the special-looking black wristwatch he was wearing. This is my personal terminal. Once you kill the owner, you can renew the login and become the new owner of this personal terminal. The blue-haired young man spoke like a robot. Silence. Everyone's expression turned strange. Would the blue-haired young man slap himself if he was awake? Kill the owner and you would become the new owner. Was it all right to say this secret aloud? Everyone looked at Wang Ting. As expected, they saw a chilling and weird expression on his face. He was looking at the blue-haired young man like a butcher walking toward his livestock with a knife. How scary. They finally had a clearer understanding of Wang Ting's bewitched skill. With this ability, it would be extremely simple for Wang Ting to know other people's secrets. Everyone shivered in fear when they thought of their secrets being sucked out from the bottom of their hearts so easily. Their gaze turned vigilant when they looked at him again. This young man was dangerous. They must stay away from him. They must never offend him. Wang Ting disregarded their expressions. He took off the blue-haired young man's personal terminal and snapped his fingers. The blue-haired young man trembled. His gaze turned lively again. He was awake. After a moment of confusion, the blue-haired young man finally realized what he had done. His face turned white. He stared at Wang Ting in bewilderment. You, he pointed at Wang Ting and stammered. Stop stuttering, I just asked a few simple questions. Why do you look as if you got bullied? Wang Ting snapped back. The crowd was speechless. Was it honestly a few simple questions? He almost got his entire ancestral lineage. My personal terminal. The blue-haired young man screamed when he saw his wristwatch in Wang Ting's hand. His face turned paler. Don't be nervous. Relax. I've gotten all the answers I want. It's useless for you to be worried, Wang Ting said calmly. The blue-haired young man was on the brink of tears. He was about to have a breakdown. He felt that the other party wanted to kill him. This feeling was extremely strong. It sent chills down his spine. Yet, this fellow was asking him to relax. Relax your head. My life is in your hands and you're still making jokes about it. This is too much. You can't kill me. If you kill me, the Lan family will come and look for you, the blue-haired young man shouted. Wang Ting ignored him. He turned to the other martial warriors and said, I've asked everything I wanted. Do you have anything else? If not, he didn't finish his sentence, but they knew what he was hinting at. If not, he would kill this blue-haired young man. Ruthless. What a savage young man. This fellow was vicious. Different expressions appeared on their faces. Their fear of Wang Ting reached new heights. The Lan family is a powerful faction, many times more powerful than Earth. If we kill him, they might take revenge, Commander Yong frowned and said. Many people had the same thought. They looked at Wang Ting but didn't dare to speak up. After all, the scripture was in Wang Ting's hand. If they offended him, they would lose the chance to break through. It would be a huge loss. Even if we don't kill him, they might not let us go, Wang Ting replied calmly. Well, Commander Yong didn't know what to say. He understood the logic, but he was still hesitant since it would affect the entire country Xia. He wasn't the only one. The leader of martial arts and the other two commanders felt the same way. But they had to admit that Wang Ting was right. Some things couldn't be solved by compromise. No, if you let me go, I promise I won't take revenge, the blue-haired young man guaranteed. He panicked when he realized that Wang Ting would really kill him regardless of the consequences. In front of death, nothing was important, including pride and status. Now, he finally understood that he was no different from a normal person. The blue-haired young man felt humiliated and downcast. He never imagined that he would have to beg for mercy in front of an earthling, hoping that he would spare his life. In that case, I'll let you go. Wang Ting touched his chin and nodded. He seemed touched by the blue-haired young man's sincerity. Really? The blue-haired young man was stunned. He stared at Wang Ting in disbelief and joy. Everyone was surprised too. They didn't know that Wang Ting was so easy to convince. From the way he looked at the blue-haired young man a moment ago, they didn't think that he would agree. He seemed intent on killing the other party. However, no. Wang Ting replied indifferently. The blue-haired young man's expression distorted. No. This devil was playing with him. The blue-haired young man had a mental breakdown. His eyes turned bloodshot. They were burning with flames of anger. Look at your eyes. It's so scary. You will definitely seek revenge in the future. I think it's better to kill you. Wang Ting pretended to be frightened. He sounded as if the blue-haired young man was the one who wanted to kill him. The blue-haired young man. Silence. Everyone was dumbfounded by Wang Ting's shamelessness. You will die a terrible death. Don't think about living in peace after you kill me. The Lan family will take revenge for me. The blue-haired young man knew that he wouldn't be spared, so he started threatening Wang Ting with a vicious gaze. Swoosh. Before he could finish his sentence, a soft sound was heard. A blood-red flower blossomed on the blue-haired young man's forehead. Indeed, it's better to kill him, Wang Ting mumbled to himself as he lowered his finger. There was unwillingness and hatred in the blue-haired young man's eyes. His lifeless body fell to the ground with a thump. The entire control room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Was the blue-haired young man dead? Wang Ting killed him before anyone could react. The crowd only regained their senses after some time. Their expressions turned grim. Wang Ting killed the young man, so they would need to worry about the revenge from the Lan family now. This was a family that owned 3 life planets. They didn't have the power to confront it. Wang Ting wasn't as worried. He looked at the ground. After killing the blue-haired young man, a few attribute bubbles had dropped from his body. Get it? Imperial Realm Spirit *132 Imperial Realm Enlightenment *145 Constellation Force, Water, *2400 Ultimate Stage Water Talent *650,000 Crashing Ripples times Water Element Ultima *520 Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He felt that the blue-haired young man had died a worthy death. He died for a reason. Both his spirit and enlightenment were at the Imperial Realm, and he dropped more than 100 points for each. Wang Ting's spirit and enlightenment were getting closer and closer to achieving a breakthrough. Then, there were 2,400 points of constellation force. After advancing to the planetary stage, the number of force attributes needed to advance a level was extremely high. The limit of the first-level planetary stage was 10,000 points. Wang Ting was worried that his progression speed would slow down, but it seemed like he was overthinking. Killing a planetary stage martial warrior gave him 2,400 points of constellation force. He would be able to advance after killing a few of them. Very good. Planetary stage martial warriors were wealthy fellows. There were no planetary stage martial warriors on Earth, but there must be many in the universe. 2 as expected of a talent from the universe. The blue-haired young man possessed ultimate stage water talent, and he dropped 650 points of the talent. Rarely any martial warriors on Earth dropped so many points of talents at once. Ultimate stage water talent, 2210 5000. His talent increased from 1560 to 2210. The increment speed was fast. Wang Ting wondered what was after the ultimate stage. At that time, how powerful would his talent become? The last attribute bubble was the Ultima attribute bubble. As the attribute bubbles merged into his body, memory fragments appeared in Wang Ting's mind. Waves, sword glows, a figure. These memory fragments were regarding the enlightenment of the 1,000 crashing ripples. They floated into his mind and became part of his memory. Boom! A white light flashed past, and a glaring sword glow burst in Wang Ting's mind. Layers of waves tossed and turned amidst the sword glow. This Ultima was extremely powerful. Wang Ting opened his eyes. A flash of blue sword glow blinked in them. It gave off a frightening aura. 1,000 crashing ripples times water element Ultima, 48500, second level. In an instant, Wang Ting's 1,000 crashing ripples rose from the first level to the second level. The effect increased greatly. The blue-haired young man had practiced hard for many years before reaching the third level of the Ultima. Yet, Wang Ting managed to attain the second level just by picking up attributes, taking less than a day. Comparison made one infuriated. Chapter 772. Remember to raise money when you go back. The Ultima was higher than the conscious level. It was harder to comprehend. You could say that anyone who reached the Ultima level was the cream of the crop. Raising the level of their Ultima was more difficult. Each level was harder than the previous one. You would need high enlightenment and plenty of opportunities to upgrade your Ultima continuously. If the conscious level was an entry-level luxury item, the Ultima stage was the real luxury brand. Normal people wouldn't be able to afford it. All in all, the Ultima stage was a high-end product. Mind you, ever since Wang Ting received the strength of Ultima, it hadn't increased much. Unlike the 1,000 crashing ripples, which had already risen to the second level, the difference in advancement speed was vast. He was working hard to pick up attributes, but there weren't many martial warriors on Earth who had reached the Ultima stage. It was like finding a cock that could lay eggs and a pig that could climb a tree. They were a rare breed. Wang Ting felt a little helpless. However, things were getting better. The arrival of aliens on Earth opened a new path for him. There were numerous attributes he could pick up on this path, attributes he had never gotten before. The future was beautiful. However, Wang Ting wasn't very satisfied with the attribute bubbles this time. The blue-haired young man didn't drop any scriptures. Phut, rubbish. Wang Ting was furious and contemptuous. Then, he thought of something and muttered to himself, "What was this fellow's name? I forgot to ask his name just now." Never mind, he's dead, so there's no use knowing his name. He shook his head and threw the blue-haired young man's corpse into his space fragment. Then, he looked up at everyone. Everyone was surprised when they saw the blue-haired young man's corpses disappearing. They thought that Wang Ting had kept it in his space ring. They couldn't say anything. This was Wang Ting's spoil of war. "Why are you looking at me?" "The meeting hasn't ended," Wang Ting said. The attendees were speechless. "So you do know that the meeting hasn't ended? Do we look like we were in a meeting a moment ago?" The leader of martial arts knocked on the table helplessly and attracted everyone's attention. "Since we know the purpose of the aliens' invasion, it will be easier for us to come up with a plan. Wang Ting, you're the only one who has the right to fight for a slot in the Saint Star Pagoda. What's your opinion?" Wang Ting pondered before answering. "Actually, there isn't much we can do now. First, you will need to work hard in your cultivation after getting the planetary stage scripture from me. I hope that you can achieve your breakthrough as soon as possible. As for the second matter," he paused and glanced around him. Then, he smiled, revealing his white teeth. "We need to be proactive and attack and catch the alien invaders. It'll turn their trial into a joke." Everyone was stunned. They stared at Wang Ting in astonishment. "You plan to catch all the alien invaders?" Commander Hong exclaimed. He looked at Wang Ting as if he were a maniac. "Why not?" Wang Ting asked indifferently. Nothing." Commander Hong choked on his own words. He wanted to say that Wang Ting was too daring and overestimated his ability. However, he remembered all the events he had gone through. All his words had come true. He wasn't boasting. "Well, it's decided then. Do what you're supposed to do and leave the aliens to me. I'll catch them." Wang Ting stood up from his seat and stretched his back. Waving his hands, he walked out of the meeting room. The others looked at his back view and exchanged glances with one another. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. When Wang Teng reached the door, he suddenly stopped. He turned and said, "Oh right, if you want the scripture, remember to bring enough money. You can exchange for it with other things if you don't have enough cash. I'm not picky." He disappeared afterward. Silence. Everyone was puzzled. They had a bad feeling. But Wang Ting had already left. He didn't give them a chance to inquire more about it. "Wait, we have to buy it. How much is it? Is it expensive?" "That's a brainless question. It'll definitely be expensive. I knew that this fellow was up to no good. I got happy for nothing. Can I pay in installments? My family is poor. We have no money. What do you think?" Everyone started discussing. There was frustration in their tones. Tilda, the leader of martial arts, had a strange expression on his face. He coughed and said, "Stop complaining. This is a planetary stage scripture. We're lucky to have the chance to get it. Go back and raise some money to buy it from Wang Ting." The instant he spoke, everyone felt even more exasperated. All right, they would go back and raise money. "Leader, Wang Ting is going to target the alien invaders. Do we need to make some preparations?" Commander Yong hesitated before asking. The leader shook his head and gave a sad smile. "Wang Ting is right. The only thing we can do now is to raise our ability. Let him handle the rest. I believe that he can do it since he's so confident. Let's wait for him to take over the entire trial." Everyone was astounded. The leader trusted Wang Ting wholeheartedly. What poison did Wang Ting feed the leader? Why did he believe so much in him? Disperse. The leader of martial arts waved his hand. "Remember to raise money when you go back. Everyone." "Oh right, try to raise more money," the leader of martial arts added. Everyone. Oh, all the important figures were frustrated and helpless. After leaving the control room, they rushed to their homes. They might complain loudly when they were asked to raise money, but they were extremely hardworking in their actions. Wang Ting went directly to his lodging in the military. In the little villa, Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia were playing with a little child at home. Well, you couldn't say that they were playing. They were actually practicing martial arts. However, the child was too young. She looked like she was playing when she moved her little arms and legs. Wang Ting burst out laughing when he saw this scene, especially upon noticing the serious expression on Duda's small and chubby face. He found it funny. "This little girl has grown plumper," Wang Ting muttered in his heart. "Brother, you're back." Duda's black eyes lit up when she saw Wang Ting's figure. Her short legs shuttled back and forth as she ran towards him. She threw her hands behind like a little fat kite in the air. She came in front of Wang Ting within a few seconds before putting on her brakes. Then, she raised her little head and asked him in a sincere tone, "Brother, are you done with your work?" Chapter 773, 5 bowls of rice. 5 bowls of rice. Two bright and large eyes shimmered on the little fat face. She looked at Wang Ting cutely. It was so adorable. Wang Ting's heart melted. He knew that he had been busy with cultivation recently and neglected this little girl. Dudu was also extremely sensible. She didn't disturb him and only dared to ask him now. Wang Ting felt a little ashamed. He immediately gave her a smile and said, "Yes, I'm done. Why don't I play with you?" "Really?" Little Dudu didn't expect this answer. She was stunned. She stared at her brother with wide eyes filled with disbelief. "Of course, your brother never lies," Wang Ting said firmly. "Wow, this is great." Little Dudu jumped on the spot and pounced on Wang Ting. "Brother, hug Tilda, oh my, you little chubby kid." Wang Ting laughed and caught Dudu in a hurry. He pinched her nose. Dudu pulled a long and chubby face at him. She was slightly embarrassed when she said, "I'm not fat. I'm just growing." Wang Ting chuckled in his heart. He didn't expose her and smiled instead. "That's right, you're still growing. You need to eat more." "Yes." Little Dudu nodded fervently. "I eat a lot. I can eat 3 bowls of rice in a meal." Wang Ting was shocked. "Oh my, this little girl has a good appetite. Please don't raise her into a heavy little fatty." He thought of something and realized the reason. Activating his eyes of essence, he looked at Dudu. He immediately saw her physique. As expected, this little girl had made a small achievement in her cultivation. She was a beginner-stage martial disciple. Oh my! A 5-year-old little girl managed to become a beginner-stage martial disciple. Could you imagine it? Wang Teng wondered what he was doing when he was 5 years old. He was probably playing with sand. He immediately gave a reserved and proud smile. He felt that he was a useless person when he was young. He touched Dudu's mushroom hair and praised her. Dudu, you're amazing. Little Dudu thought that Wang Ting was complimenting her for eating, so her smile got wider. She rubbed her belly and said shyly, I think I can eat 5 bowls, but I'm too embarrassed to ask. Wang Ting, I thought you already eat a lot, but I was too naive. You can eat more than that. Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia gave weird expressions when they heard their conversation. They tried to control their laughter, but they couldn't hold it back. Ha ha ha, Tilda sister, why are you laughing? Dudu asked curiously. Oh, haha, nothing. I thought of something funny. Lin Chuxia was the first to stifle her laughter. She quickly waved her hand. Are you laughing at me for eating too much? Dudu was puzzled. No, eating is a good thing. Why would we laugh at you? Lin Chuhan quickly straightened herself. That's right. I get envious when I see you eating so much. Lin Chuxia spouted nonsense. Really? Why don't you eat 5 bowls of rice with me today? Dudu asked. Lin Chuxia felt that she had shot herself in the foot. She was rendered speechless. That's right, your sister Chuxia will eat 5 bowls of rice with you. Wang Ting made the decision for her. Lin Chuxia almost cried. I don't want to become a rice bucket. She glared at Wang Ting bitterly. She almost charged forward and fought with him. Lin Chuhan was working hard to keep her laughter in check. This time, she did it. She was afraid that Wang Ting would ask her to eat 5 bowls of rice if she laughed. 5 bowls of rice were nothing to a martial warrior, but she was a lady. There was no reason for her to eat so much. Also, they were having dinner with the Wang family today. If the Wang family saw her devouring bowl after bowl, they might laugh at her. Wang Teng accompanied Dudu to practice martial arts and taught her how to cultivate after she became a beginner-stage martial disciple. Ever since he realized this little girl's exceptional gift, he decided to groom her properly so that her talent wouldn't go to waste. One should start practicing martial arts from a young age. Based on her current progress, Dudu would be able to become an advanced stage martial disciple after a year. A 6-year-old advanced stage martial disciple. This was heaven-defying. He was bringing up a little genius. Wang Teng felt proud just thinking about it. Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia liked Dudu too. They accompanied the pair at the side. Dudu was overjoyed. Normally, she was always alone. This was the first time there were so many people with her. The courtyard was filled with her sweet and cheerful laughter. Her eyes formed a thin line as she smiled happily. Soon, it was time for dinner. Li Xiaomei came out in an apron and called, "Stop practicing. Wash your hands and prepare to eat." All right. Wang Teng carried Dudu up and walked into the house. Come, let's eat 5 bowls of rice. 5 bowls of rice, 5 bowls. Dudu repeated his words enthusiastically as if eating 5 bowls of rice was something to be proud of. She was influenced by Wang Teng. Lin Chuxia was depressed. She wore a sad face as she walked behind them. Everyone from the Wang family was present at the dining table. The blue-haired young man had brought the whole family to capital Xia. What an unexpected turn of events. Lin Chuhan's family was also present. This was the first time the Lin family was sitting with the Wang family. No one expected it to happen like this. Wang Shangguo and Li Xiaomei invited them to the table enthusiastically. Wang Teng specially placed Dudu and Lin Chuxia together. Then, he served a bowl of rice personally to each of them. The rice was piled up like a small hill. Eat, well, continue practicing afterward. Wang Teng signaled them to start eating. Why are you serving so much rice to a lady? Li Xiaomei reprimanded him gently. Li Xiaomei nodded her head fervently. She hoped that Li Xiaomei could save her from her predicament. Mom, you don't understand. Martial warriors need to eat more. You might not know, but Dudu is already a beginner-stage martial disciple, Wang Teng replied. What? Dudu is a beginner-stage martial disciple? Wang Shengguo was dumbstruck. The other members of the Wang family looked over and fixed their gazes on Dudu. They were bewildered. That's right. Wang Teng nodded. They all gasped after Wang Teng's confirmation and looked at Dudu as if she were some rare animal. No wonder this little girl became stronger lately. A few days ago, she carried my vegetable basket for me without much effort. Li Xiaomei was enlightened. Why didn't you say earlier? Wang Shengguo felt speechless. How would I know? I thought that she became stronger because she practiced with our son, Li Xiaomei replied innocently. Ha ha ha, our family has a dragon already, but it looks like we'll have another phoenix in the future. Grandpa Wang laughed heartily. Wang Shenjun and Wang Shenghong were envious. Look at their brother. His son was an exceptional talent, and the daughter they picked up from the street was a genius too. Then look at their family. None of the younger ones was talented in martial arts. In this era, martial arts was the only way to succeed. Dudu noticed everyone staring at her. She bit her chopsticks and asked timidly, Am I eating too much? No, not at all. Eat all you want. If you ever get hungry, tell me. Grandpa will buy food for you. Grandpa Wang laughed. Thank you, Grandpa, Dudu replied obediently. She was elated. Good, what a good child, Grandpa Wang praised her happily. The more he looked at her, the more he liked her. Stop daydreaming. The dishes are getting cold. Let's eat quickly. Everyone started moving their chopsticks. The dinner was sumptuous. The family drank some alcohol to celebrate surviving this disaster. Dudu had a taste too. Wang Ting tapped his chopsticks in the alcohol and placed them in her mouth. The atmosphere was harmonious. The fear and anxiety during the day were dispersed entirely. After dinner, everyone went to the living room for a casual chat. The elders and the youngsters gathered in two different groups. Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan sat together unconsciously. They played with Dudu and enjoyed this sweet moment. I think we can start preparing for their wedding. Grandpa Wang smiled as he watched them. I think so too. However, we'll have to ask for the children's opinions first. The smile on Mother Lin's face never disappeared. She was extremely satisfied with Wang Ting. Where would she find another outstanding son-in-law like him? 2. Chapter 774. A great sale. In the villa, the Wang family was happy and harmonious. Grandpa Wang, Wang Shengguo, and Li Xiaomei started discussing Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan's wedding with Mother Lin and Father Lin. Father Lin's health had improved greatly with the help of Wang Teng's Dan medications. He wasn't as weak as before. The improvement of the Lin family gave him hope, and he rekindled his desire to live. He stopped locking himself in his room and drowning himself with alcohol. A prosthesis was fitted on his leg, so he could move around freely like a normal person. However, he had been through too much, so he looked weary and time-beaten. His hair was white, but he still looked handsome. If not, he wouldn't have two beautiful daughters, Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia. In summary, this was a handsome middle-aged man. He couldn't help but smile when he talked about Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan. Mom, Dad, Grandpa, it's too early for you guys to talk about this. The alien invasion hasn't been solved yet. Wang Teng walked over and said in a helpless tone. Ha ha ha, you can continue your date, and we'll continue our chat. It's not conflicting, Grandpa Wang laughed and replied. He seemed open about this topic. Sure, you make a lot of sense. Wang Ting didn't expect his grandpa to be so cheeky. No one was held up. Great. Lin Chuhan felt embarrassed. She played with Dudu and pretended that she didn't hear anything. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Everyone was stunned. Grandpa Wang said to Wang Ting's little cousin, Wang Haoran, Little Ran, check the door. Okay. Wang Haoran stood up with his phone and ran to open the door while playing his game. After some time, he came back with an elder. Major General Wang, I'm sorry to disturb you at this time of the night. This elder was the family head of the Sun family from capital Xia. He had met Wang Ting during the banquet. Its old son. Wang Ting stood up to welcome him. He might be powerful, but this elder was still many years older than him. It wouldn't hurt to give him some respect. Also, being polite would make it easier for him to coerce more money from him. Who is this? Grandpa Wang stood up and asked Wang Ting. This is the family head of the Sun family, one of the top 10 elite families from capital Xia, Wang Ting introduced. The Sun family. Grandpa Wang was stunned. He hurriedly said to Wang Ting's aunt beside him, Huili, make some tea. Zhao Huili was preparing to be an audience when she got called by Grandpa Wang. She was stunned for a moment. This was Wang Ting's guest. Why didn't he ask Li Xiumei to make the tea? Why call her? Zhao Huili complained to herself in frustration. But she didn't dare to refute. She got up obediently and went to make tea. It's all right, it's all right. I'll leave after a short conversation. The family head of the Sun family waved his hand and said to Wang Ting, Major General Wang, you should already know the purpose of my visit. I'll get straight to the point. How much is the scripture? Please tell me directly. Please have a seat. Wang Ting signaled him to sit down. After he sat down, Wang Ting continued, your ability right now isn't enough for you to advance to the planetary stage. You can try converting your force first. What is this force conversion? The family head of the Sun family had a great attitude. He listened to the advice humbly. It means converting your normal force into constellation force. You can think of the constellation force as a higher form of energy. This is a necessary requirement for you to advance to the planetary stage. Wang Ting didn't mind everyone's presence and explained the idea to him on the spot. The family head of the Sun family nodded. He looked at Wang Ting and waited for him to continue. Nothing, that's it, Wang Ting said. Cough, what do you mean? The old man asked carefully. He didn't think that Wang Ting said that just to explain the concept to him. My meaning is very simple. You can buy this skill that converts force into constellation force. Wang Ting smiled and said. Isn't it the entire planetary stage scripture? The family head of the Sun family asked. His heart skipped a beat. Do you think you have enough assets to buy the entire set of planetary stage scripture? Wang Ting raised his eyebrows. I can't afford it. Old Sun felt a stab in his heart. He shook his head in exasperation. That's right. So, you can buy the conversion method first and think about the advancement part later. I'm thinking of you. I have no selfish motives, Wang Ting said righteously. As if I will believe you. The family head of the Sun family rolled his eyes in his heart. The Wang family raised their heads and looked at the ceiling. They felt that Wang Ting was scamming the old man, so they shouldn't interrupt him. How much is the conversion skill? The family head of the Sun family asked. Not much. Wang Ting opened his mouth. Before the family head of the Sun family could smile, he continued, you can just give me 50 billion renminbi. How much? The old man almost jumped up from his seat. 50 billion. Wang Ting was trying to swallow all his asset. This young man was heartless. The family head of the Sun family looked at Wang Ting as if he were a devil wearing a sinister smile. The Wang family was thunderstruck too. 50 billion. Oh my God, 50 billion. What kind of scripture was that? Despite being incomplete, it cost 50 billion. Wang Shenghong and Wang Shenjun couldn't help but gasp in shock. Calm down, calm down. Damn it, I can't calm down. Wang Shengguo and Li Xiumei looked at Wang Ting. They wanted to see if he had the words unscrupulous merchant printed on his forehead. Was this truly their son? Was he a gene mutation? The Wang family was also conducting business, but they had never thought of doing such a big deal. It was unbelievable. Grandpa Wang's expression didn't change, but the corners of his eyes twitched a little. He tried his best to hide his astonishment. No matter what, Wang Ting was the descendant of their Wang family. Nothing wrong with that. Wang Ting's aunt was making some tea. When she heard 50 billion, her hand shook, and she dropped the cup of tea she was pouring. She hurriedly held the cup up and smiled awkwardly before pouring another cup. Everyone regained their senses because of her interruption. The family head of the Sun family lifted the teacup and gulped a mouthful to calm his nerves. He didn't care if it was scalding or not. Can it be cheaper? 50 billion is too expensive, he said bitterly. Family head Sun, this is already a discounted price. It's heavily discounted in fact. Wang Ting said earnestly, you don't know how expensive planetary stage scriptures are. I'm not lying. Many people in the universe won't be able to afford a planetary stage scripture even after working hard for their entire life. I'm offering this great sale because we are fellow Earthlings. Earning money is secondary. The main point is to give everyone a path that leads to the planetary stage. You will be able to walk out of Earth at that time. Once you have reached the planetary stage, you can tour the universe without any external help and have the right to step into a wider world. What's a bit of money compared to that? The Wang family watched Wang Ting as he coaxed the family head of the Sun family. They felt that they were looking at a sly fox in human clothing. 1. Chapter 775. The item the leader of martial arts used for exchange. The family head of the Sun family trembled as he lifted his teacup. He was snowed by Wang Ting's words. Although it was expensive, he also felt that what Wang Ting made sense. This was a planetary stage scripture. 50 billion wasn't expensive. But the family head of the Sun family still felt that something was wrong. He suspected that Wang Ting was bluffing. Mr. Sun, I gave you the discount because you're the first buyer. The others after you won't get this price. Wang Ting decided to add some oil to the fire when he noticed his indecisiveness. The family head of the Sun family was surprised. He didn't think that he would be the first. Based on what Wang Ting said, he might really increase the price for the people behind him. He wanted to bargain but decided not to. He should buy and leave quickly. The price might change if he dragged the deal. All right, 50 billion it is, the head of the Sun family gritted his teeth and said firmly. The two of them made a secret transaction, and the item was passed to the head of the Sun family. The old man left Wang Teng's villa happily after he received the planetary stage conversion skill. From his expression, he seemed excited. This was like buying a car. You might feel heartbroken when you made the payment, but after getting the car, you would be over the moon. Grandpa Wang and the others widened their eyes in surprise when they saw Wang Ting earning 50 billion with a snap of his fingers. They stared at him intently. This money came too easy. It was like a breeze and felt so unreal. Why are you staring at me? Wang Ting kept the money and turned around, only to see everyone staring at him. Son, what kind of scripture is that? Why is it so expensive? Wang Shengguo asked. He couldn't control his curiosity. These aliens are a level above the general stage, which is the planetary stage I just mentioned. The scripture I sold to the family head of the Sun family will allow him to break through to that stage, Wang Teng explained. The planetary stage. The Wang family was surprised. This is an important scripture. Is it all right for you to pass it to them so easily? Grandpa Wang asked with a shimmer in his eyes. Don't worry. I'm only giving them the conversion skill that is one part of the scripture. By the time they finish the conversion, they'll have progressed much further. I won't need to worry about them causing trouble. It's good that you know what you're doing. Grandpa Wang had seen many examples of the farmer and the snake story. He hoped that Wang Tung wouldn't be the farmer. It was better for one to be a little selfish sometimes. Wang Tung nodded. He was willing to sell the scripture to others because he wanted to open another advancement path for the martial warriors on Earth. He was also not concerned that others would surpass him. While they were chatting, another knock was heard. The crowd glanced at one another. Is it for the scripture again? Grandpa Wang asked curiously. Most likely. Wang Tung nodded. This is honestly a great sale. Everyone was speechless. Haha. What better way to recover my cost? Wang Tung sniggered. Grandpa Wang asked Wang Haoran to open the door again. The other children from the young family were astounded. 50 billion renminbi was earned so easily. It felt like a dream. They anticipated what would happen later, wondering how much money Wang Teng would earn. Wang Haoran immediately went to open the door. Very soon, A middle-aged man was brought into the living room. Wang Ting smiled and started another round of discussion. Many people visited the Wang family that night. All of them came to buy the scripture. To the Wang family, these people were all here to give Wang Ting money. One gift cost a few billion. They were wealthy and stupid. Wang Shenghong, Wang Shenjun, Zhao Huili, Mother Lin, and Father Lin were all in a daze. How much money was this? They couldn't even count anymore. They saw Wang Ting building his wealth to a frightening level within one night. Everyone found it unbelievable. They even had an illusion. This wasn't money. It was just a long string of numbers. Zhao Huili was jealous. This money belonged to Wang Ting and his family. It wasn't for the entire Wang family. They wouldn't get any of it. This was an exciting night for the Wang family. Everyone had insomnia. After everyone went to bed, Wang Ting came to the roof of the villa alone and laid down. He gazed at the stars in the night sky. What he did tonight was just the start. The effects would be seen after some time. A new batch of planetary stage martial warriors would appear on Earth soon. How far these people would go was unknown. Wang Ting had his hopes up though. "What are you thinking?" A voice sounded behind him. Wang Ting turned and saw a person a few steps away. His face slowly appeared in his vision. The person stood on the roof with his hands behind his back. It was the leader of martial arts. Wang Ting didn't reply to him. He smiled and said, "I thought you wouldn't come. I'm just an ordinary guy. I can't resist the temptation of a planetary stage scripture either." The leader shook his head and replied. He didn't hide his intention or his ambition. Everyone is working hard to forge ahead on this path. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Wang Ting smiled. "I have been stuck at the entrance for a long time." The leader was a little emotional. "Do you want the conversion skill or the entire planetary stage scripture?" "The entire scripture, of course." An item appeared in the leader's hand. He threw it toward Wang Ting and continued, "This is a fair exchange. I won't let you suffer a loss. This is a star bone I took from an alien. I'd like to exchange it for the scripture. I think it's enough." "What is this?" Wang Ting was shocked when he took over the item. Star bone. This was the star bone from a universe behemoth. Wang Ting felt the strange fluctuations coming from the star bone in his hand. He activated his eyes of essence and saw the dense and complicated patterns on the star bone clearly. "This item is enough." Wang Ting nodded. He didn't waste any time and took out the star metal scripture for the leader. The leader had metal force. The leader of martial arts stood on the spot with a sharp glint in his eyes. He seemed to be comprehending the uniqueness of this scripture. After some time, he let out a long sigh and muttered to himself, "So this is the planetary stage scripture. You need to find the sea of nihility and form stars with your force. Then, you will be able to overcome the status of life." Impressive indeed. Wang Ting smiled when he saw his expression. "Why don't you go back and try it out?" "I apologize for my actions. I almost couldn't control myself." The leader shook his head bitterly. He didn't maintain an arrogant attitude because of his status. Wang Ting kept the star bone and shook his head. "No one could maintain their composure after getting the scripture from me. It's a planetary stage scripture after all. It signals a new path. By giving the scripture, you're opening an unknown path for Earth." "Haha, I just want to see how Earth will advance," Wang Ting said. "I think we won't disappoint you." The leader paused before asking, "Are you leaving tomorrow?" "Yes. It's better to take action as soon as possible so that the aliens won't have time to react." Wang Ting nodded. "Be careful. I'll take care of the Wang family. Let them stay in the military for now." "Thank you." Wang Ting nodded. "You're welcome." The leader shook his head. "I'm leaving. I'll wait for your success." Success. Chapter 776. The start of his hunt. The next day, the Wang family woke up one after another. All of them had dark circles and were yawning with tears and gum in their eyes. They couldn't sleep the entire night, only dozing off in the early morning. Grandpa Wang came to the living room. Li Xiaomei, Zhao Huili, and the other ladies were already preparing breakfast. There were disadvantages of having a large family staying together. With so many people, it was troublesome to cook for everyone. A lot of ingredients needed to be prepared for a simple breakfast. The ladies spent half an hour making breakfast even though there were many of them. When Grandpa Wang saw breakfast being served, he said to Fang Qian when beside him, "Qian, see if your cousin is awake." "Oh, okay." Fang Qian Wen had just brushed her teeth and hadn't woken up fully. She nodded and went upstairs. Wang Ting was the pillar of the Wang family. Grandpa Wang wasn't planning to start the breakfast without him. "Sister, I want to go too." Little Dudu shot out from the side and ran to catch up with Fang Qianwen with her short legs. "Slow down. Don't trip," Li Xiumei reminded her. After some time, Fang Qianwen came down while holding Duda's hand. She said in a strange tone, "Cousin isn't in his room. I wonder where he went." "Yes, he's not inside. Brother has woken up already." Dudu nodded her little head in agreement. "He's not around." Grandpa Wang was surprised. He might have gone out for morning practice. "Dad, let's eat first." "Don't wait for him," Wang Shengwa said in a casual tone. "In that case, let's sit down and have breakfast." Grandpa Wang nodded. Everyone sat down around the dining table. Just when they were about to start eating, a ray of light lit up above the dining table, and a figure appeared. It was Wang Ting. "Grandpa, Mom, Dad, when everyone sees this video, I'd have already left. You can stay in capital Xia for now. The leader of martial arts has promised me to take care of you, so don't worry about safety. I have to leave for some time to attend to a matter. I don't know when I'll be back. Don't miss me." A voice came out of the video. After ending his speech, the light shut down, and the image disappeared as well. Everyone went silent. "Stupid child, he didn't even bid farewell before leaving," Li Xiumei complained. Her eyes turned red. She knew what Wang Ting had left to do, and her expression turned anxious. She was concerned about his safety. Worry appeared on Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia's faces too. They didn't expect Wang Ting to leave so quickly. He left before they could have a proper chat. This time, his enemies were the gifted martial warriors from the universe. They were many times stronger than the martial warriors on Earth. The family wondered if Wang Ting would come back alive. They started to feel frustrated. They were honestly useless. They couldn't offer any help during crucial times and were a burden to Wang Ting most of the time instead. "He probably left quietly because he doesn't want us to worry." Grandpa Wang sighed and waved his hands. "Don't worry. We should have more confidence in him. Our little Ting is the genius of his generation, the most powerful martial warrior on Earth. He will be fine. Before he comes back, stay put in capital Xia. Don't run away or cause any trouble. Wait for him to return." "All right, this is it. Let's eat." At the same time, a large bird with crimson-black feathers was flying above Nanhai. This was a handsome and majestic-looking crow. Its crimson eyes were as bright as flames. They gave off a sharp gaze, and there was a terrifying aura exuding out of its body. The sea beasts below swam away quickly, afraid of provoking it. It flew at a fast speed. Every time it flapped its wings, it would travel 100 meters, leaving behind a gale in its wake. Yet, there was a person sitting on the back of this crow. He didn't seem affected by the fierce wind around him. His hair didn't even fly an inch into the air. Country Silo, Country Anan, Country Glow, these small countries are marked by different colors. It looks like they have already been seized. The person opened his mouth and murmured to himself. A hologram of a map shot out from his wristwatch and floated in front of him. This was Wang Ting, who had left capital Xia. His Queen Phoenix battlecraft was destroyed, so he had to use Little White as his ride. Fortunately, Little White was a Lord-level wild beast now, so it could move quickly. He wouldn't waste much time. Also, compared to a battlecraft, Little White was a spiritual pet that could maneuver more flexibly. Wang Ting was calculating where he should enter from. After snatching the blue-haired young man's personal terminal and investigating it for some time, he finally understood how to use it. The most important function of the personal terminal was its ability to mark the size of the land that had been conquered by the different aliens. One of the assessment criteria for this trial was the mass of the land you conquered. Looking at it carefully, the map displayed all the zones and countries on Earth. There were many human symbols floating above the different counties, which gave off lights of different colors. The rays of lights enveloped the area around it, forming different colored zones. Country Shia was marked in blue while the neighboring countries, including Country Boar, Country Neon, Country Gausha, Country Talit, Country Anan, and Country Glow were all marked in different colors. These counties had all been invaded by aliens. This function of the personal terminal was extremely useful. He didn't have to waste time finding the countries with aliens. However, once the conqueror of the country changed, the other aliens would notice it right away. If Wang Ting's blue area swallowed too many countries, the other aliens would view him with high importance and place more attention on him. They might even work together to resist him. That would be troublesome. Although Wang Ting was unhappy, he could only shake his head helplessly. He couldn't change what had already happened. He could only accept it unwillingly. Wang Ting was surprised that none of the countries around Country Shia managed to escape the invasion of the aliens. All of them were colored. It felt like a pack of wolves had surrounded a tiger. Country Shia was the tiger while the small countries around it were wolves. They were waiting for the right time to swallow this large piece of land. However, the aliens didn't know that the owner of Country Shia had been changed. It was no longer a tiger. It was an awakened giant dragon. Let's take care of the aliens around us first so that I don't have to worry about the rear, Wang Ting muttered to himself. His gaze turned cold. Little White, to Country Anan. At his order, the majestic crow gave a shrill screech and expanded its wings. It flapped them furiously. Swoosh! A strong gale was formed, and Little White disappeared from the spot. It carried Wang Ting and flew towards their destination at the speed of lightning. This was the start of his hunt. Chapter 777, 1000 Years Chalcedony Heart Country Anan. In its capital, Shenglong, Little White crossed the ocean and arrived at their destination. The first area Wang Ting chose to target was Country Anan. He wasn't certain where the aliens would be, but they were most likely at the capital, just like how the blue-haired young man took over capital Shia. This was the easiest and most direct way of conquering a country. Wang Ting didn't plan to hide on this trip. He guessed that the alien invaders had different levels of strength. The stronger ones captured larger areas while the weaker ones seized smaller pieces of land, waiting to see how things worked out later. This was their only choice. Country Anan was just a small country. The alien invaders here must be weaker than the blue-haired young man, so Wang Ting wasn't worried. As expected, when he reached the capital of Country Anan, Shenglong, he saw a large alien spacecraft parked above Plaza Baiting. If Shenglong was the heart of Country Anan, Plaza Baiting was the heart of the capital. The plaza was huge and could fit a couple 100,000 people. This was the gathering and event spot for the people in Shenglong. The large shadow of the spacecraft cast a gloomy atmosphere over the city. No one dared to step into this plaza. Wang Ting stared at the spacecraft. He was right. This spacecraft was smaller than the blue-haired young man's by about half a size. Although it was a little superficial to judge an alien's ability by the size of his spacecraft, it was the most direct method. Of course, it might be related to his background. Or the blue-haired young man might be a premium player. Wang Ting suddenly remembered that the blue-haired young man's space items were still on his body. He slapped his head. How could he forget this? There might be a lot of good stuff inside. Fortunately, the corpse was in his hand, so he could take them out at any time. He didn't need to hurry. Wang Ting wouldn't put down his guard. No matter how weak these alien invaders were, they were planetary stage martial warriors. He mustn't underestimate them. Wang Ting didn't hide his movements, so someone immediately noticed his arrival. A few figures flew out from the spacecraft and shot towards his location. He activated his spiritual sight and gauged their ability. These were 3 martial warriors at the peak of the 13-star general stage. They possessed constellation force, not ordinary force. Normal force was vastly different from constellation force. Constellation force was purer and thicker. Under his spiritual sight, there were dots of force crystals shimmering in the balls of lights. They looked like stars. Wang Ting's expression didn't change after knowing their abilities. He wasn't looking down on them. He didn't even have to look at them. Who are you? The three martial warriors stopped 10 meters away from Wang Ting. This was a safe distance, or so they thought. If Wang Ting attacked them, they had time to react. The 13-star general stage was powerful. It would only take an instant for them to travel more than 10 meters. These aliens weren't speaking in Earth language. However, Wang Ting wasn't worried. He was aware of the personal terminal's language translation function. This was why the blue-haired young man was able to communicate with him. The guy didn't speak their language. The personal terminal was translating for him. But these martial warriors in front weren't in the planetary stage. They weren't participants of the trial. Instead, they were just the candidate's subordinates or his sidekicks. They didn't have the personal terminal, so they couldn't communicate with Wang Ting. The language translation function in the personal terminal was able to translate a large number of alien languages. Even if Earth's languages weren't recorded into the universe language database, the personal terminal could come up with the translation using its powerful calculation ability. This was how advanced this technology was. Hence, normal martial warriors wouldn't be able to possess it. Wang Ting had a personal terminal now, so the language barrier wasn't a problem for him. The martial warriors were using the common universe language. The meaning of their words was sent into Wang Ting's mind after the personal terminal translated it. Tell me, where's the candidate of this country? When Wang Ting spoke, the personal terminal would translate his words too. To the alien martial warriors, he was speaking in the universal language. This was how special the personal terminal was. No one would be able to detect the difference. Once again, Wang Ting realized how advanced the alien civilization was. Earth's technology was nothing compared to theirs. The martial warriors' expressions changed. They thought that Wang Ting was a candidate and had come to snatch their land. Mr. The martial warriors didn't dare resist. They knew how powerful planetary stage martial warriors were. The general stage was as weak as an ant in front of the planetary stage. They didn't dare to be conceited and immediately bowed with respect. There was an unspoken rule during the trial. When fighting for land, the candidates rarely killed their opponent's subordinates. To the candidates, the subordinates weren't part of the trial. Also, they were at most at the general stage. They wouldn't pose any threat to them. Also, every single area required men to watch over it. The locals of the country might not surrender so easily. In comparison, these alien martial warriors were easier to use. Thus, the candidates didn't bother to kill them. However, if they went overboard, they didn't mind lifting their fingers and ending their lives. Wang Ting was stunned when he saw the attitude of these alien martial warriors. Were they all so timid? The subordinates of the blue-haired young man weren't so easy to speak to. They were all extremely fierce. He didn't know that these alien martial warriors felt superior in front of Earthlings. They looked down on him because he was a local from Earth. After following the blue-haired young man for some time, they got influenced by him and started to be arrogant and domineering too. The three martial warriors in front of him treated him as a candidate. To them, every candidate came from a powerful background or possessed exceptional talent. They didn't dare to resist. Humans were cowardly at times. They looked down on people with a lower status than them, but they would grovel in front of those who had more power than them, even willing to be their slaves. Wang Ting read the situation and immediately put on an arrogant expression. He started his acting, saying in an indifferent voice, "Stop talking nonsense. Let me ask you again. Where is the candidate?" The martial warriors didn't dare to offend him. However, they were still a little hesitant. If they betrayed their young master, they would have a hard time in the future. "For me." Wang Ting snorted. A crimson glow appeared in his eyes, shooting into one of the martial warrior's eyes. Bewitch. The martial warrior got hit by the attack. He started to lose focus and lost his consciousness. The other two martial warriors were flabbergasted. "Tell me," Wang Tung shouted. "Our young master is the son of the leader of the Hailang mercenary group. He found Awakening Spot and is heading there now," the martial warrior replied without any expressions. The Hailang mercenary group? Wang Tung was surprised. He felt that the factions in the universe were different from what he had expected. There were even mercenary groups, and they seemed to be quite powerful. Wang Tung didn't think too much. "Where is this place?" "At Country Glow. The martial warriors there found 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. Our young master is going there to snatch it from them," the martial warrior replied. 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. Wondering to himself, Wang Ting's gaze turned sharp. He knew that Country Glow was known for producing jades, but he didn't think that they would have such a rare treasure. It was definitely something extraordinary since two planetary stage martial warriors were willing to fight for it. Wang Tung suddenly got interested. How could he not join this fight? He asked a few more questions and got all the information he could from the three martial warriors. He learned that the candidate from Country Anan wasn't the only one going to snatch the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. The candidate from Country Silo was on the way too. That meant that there were 3 candidates in Country Glow now. Fortunately, none of them was at the 3rd level of the planetary stage like the blue-haired young man. 2 of them were at the 1st level and the last one was at the 2nd level. No wonder they could only take over small countries like Country Glow, Country Anan, and Country Silo. The blue-haired young man was able to suppress all 3 of them alone. Chapter 778, Below the Mine north of Country Glow. There were mineral lodes near the Wulu River and the Kengdi River situated at the border of Shijie Province and Kachin's Special Administrative Region. There were a few thousand small and big mines scattered in this area, with figures working hard in them. These were the local miners. The situation in the mining industry was complicated. There were companies with an official background, companies with local warlords supporting them, and companies owned by local wealthy families. They were also corporations jointly owned by local and overseas investors. The relations were so complicated that normal people wouldn't be able to snatch any of the business. However, these mines were all controlled by the aliens now. None of the factions dared to resist. Wang Tung reached this place more than an hour later. He used his spiritual sight to scan the area, but he didn't see any planetary stage martial warriors. Have they left? Wang Tung frowned. Who are you? A martial warrior flew over and blocked Wang Ting's path. He was at the 11-star general stage, and he looked like a martial warrior from Earth. Where are the alien invaders? Wang Tung asked directly. How dare you call the 3 lords like that? The martial warrior's expression changed as he shouted at Wang Tung. Wang Tung's gaze turned cold. You're an Earthling, but you've betrayed your home planet. Damn it. The martial warrior's expression turned ugly. His face turned distorted, and he charged toward Wang Ting with a blade in his hand. Impudent. Wang Ting's expression didn't change. A sharp glow flew out of his body and twirled around the martial warrior. Splurt. A severed arm holding a blade flew high into the air. The blood splattered more than 3 meters away. Ah! The martial warrior widened his eyes in fear, screaming in pain. I hate betrayers, Wang Ting said indifferently. You. The martial warrior's face turned pale. Cold sweat poured down his forehead, and he kept retreating while screaming, Who are you? Someone that kills alien invaders. Wang Tung snorted. You. To the martial warrior, this was treason. After shouting these 3 words, he didn't know what to say anymore. Get over here. Wang Tung released his spiritual power. It formed an invisible hand and grabbed the martial warrior's body. The martial warrior was flabbergasted. He struggled frantically but to no avail. He was dragged back by a huge force. No, don't kill me, he panicked. He was terrified. Wang Tung couldn't care less about his mental well-being. He used his bewitch skill to control him and asked him for the location of the 3 candidates. They are at the bottom of the mine, Wang Tung mumbled to himself. He flew in the direction where the martial warrior had pointed. A bloody hole appeared on the martial warrior's forehead. He had already lost all signs of life and dropped to the ground. The other martial warriors on the ground ran away when they saw this scene. A few rays of light flew out from Wang Ting's body and chased after those martial warriors. He killed all of them, sparing no one. Traitors should die. But these were just small fries. The real alien martial warriors weren't here. Mid-flight, he saw many small tents built over the mining area. These were to block the sunlight and act as landmarks. Wang Ting floated down in front of a tent. A few alien martial warriors were stationed here. They walked over immediately when they saw an invader. "Who are you?" one of the alien invaders asked using the common universe language. "Get off." Wang Ting didn't show any mercy. The rays of light shot out again and flew towards the alien invaders. Damn it. The alien martial warriors' expressions changed. They immediately retreated. However, they were just at the 13-star general stage, so they couldn't withstand Wang Ting's flying dagger attack. The flying daggers slit their throats, spilling fresh blood everywhere. Ah! The alien martial warriors' eyes widened in shock as they clutched their throats. They fell back unwillingly. Constellation Force, Earth, *20 Constellation Force, Water, *32 Constellation Force, Metal, *25. Wang Ting stepped over the corpses while picking up the attribute bubbles scattered on the ground. He came to the mine and looked down. He activated his spiritual sight and saw through the layers of obstacles. Finally, he managed to see 3 glaring balls of light near the end of his vision. My intermediate stage spiritual sight allows me to see 2,000 meters ahead of me. This means that they are approximately 2,000 meters underground. Wang Ting frowned, muttering to himself, "They are not fighting over the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. Have they decided to cooperate with one another? It's possible that they had no other choice but to work together to seize other pieces of land. The 1,000 years Chalcedony heart might become an opportunity for them instead." Wang Ting touched his chin and wondered to himself. 2 of these 3 martial warriors are at the 1st-level planetary stage while the other one is at the 2nd-level planetary stage. As expected. I have nothing to be afraid of. Wang Ting jumped down the mine and executed his shadow-merging secret skill, fusing into the darkness and crawling towards the location where the 3 candidates were. At the bottom. The 3 candidates were making their way down. There was a machine with a drill at the front. As the drill spun at high speed, the rock in front of them broke like a piece of tofu and revealed a path down. "Eric, how much longer?" a lofty and muscular man with brown hair asked. The man called Eric was another young man with brown hair. He looked at the detector in his hand and said, "We're almost there. We're more than 2,000 meters below the ground and will reach the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart around 300 meters later." "Bossa, it's still early. Why are you so impatient?" Another easygoing green-haired young man chuckled. The muscular Bossa didn't seem to like this green-haired young man. However, he still replied to him in a frustrated tone, "Our families spent much effort to give us the right to participate in this trial. They didn't send us here to play. Our abilities are at the bottom of all the martial warriors present. However, if we get the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart, our strength will increase greatly. We can work together and snatch more land from the other talents. We can't waste any time. How can I be patient?" Bossa is right. "Wolf, you should work harder. If you fail this trial, your father will break your leg," Eric said calmly. All right, you guys are right. I'll work harder. We haven't reached it, right? There's no use being impatient now. Stupid driller. Eric, can't you change to a better one?" Wolf shrugged and shook his head helplessly. 1. Chapter 779, Wang Ting from Earth. 1. Eric's face turned black. These 2 fellows didn't bring any drills, yet they were complaining about his. He had brought a low-class driller, which was good enough to serve its purpose. However, this wolf kept complaining. If their elders didn't know each other, he wouldn't have agreed to work with him. The driller was done quickly. After a few minutes, they drilled 300 meters into the ground, and a large hole appeared below them. The driller almost fell in. Luckily, Eric caught it in time. were here. Wolf and Boss's eyes lit up as they looked into the hole. Green light swarmed out of the entrance, giving their faces a green hue. They were overjoyed. They glanced at one another before jumping down the hole. None of them noticed a figure hiding in the dark a few meters behind them, watching their every move silently. Wang Ting didn't follow them right away. He used his spiritual sight to scan the area below first. He noticed a large patch of green light filled with a special energy fluctuation. At the same time, in his vision, the three candidates had already left the entrance of the hole. Wang Ting walked over with ease and jumped down the hole. The scene below was amazing. It was like a stalactite cave. Icicle-shaped jades hung from the roof. Bang! A drop of water dripped down the jade icicle, making a crisp and clear sound in this quiet and spacious cave. It was impossible to see this scene in a mine, but it appeared now. Wang Ting was filled with amazement. He scanned the cave and found the three candidates. The cave wasn't big, so they were only 10 meters in front of him. They were gathered around a large piece of jade. This jade was entirely emerald green and crystal clear. It was etched on the ground, with only half of it revealed. The three candidates had their eyes trained on this piece of jade after they entered the cave. This is it. This must be the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. Eric's face was filled with happiness. What are we waiting for? Let's break it and take out the Chalcedony heart. Bossa couldn't wait anymore. He would have hammered his fist and broken the piece of jade if he had any jade knowledge. He didn't do it because he was afraid of destroying the Chalcedony heart. Eric, act already. Wolf's eyes were glistening too. He urged his companion at the side. Yes. Eric didn't hesitate. He took out his tool and started breaking the jade. The tool he was holding looked like a cutter, but it was more exquisite. It didn't rely on mechanical blades to cut the jade. Instead, it shot out thin blades of white light under Eric's operation. They were as sharp as blades. Move aside. Eric pierced the jade with his cutter. An entire portion of jade got sliced like a piece of butter. Eric, be careful. Don't damage the Chalcedony heart, Wolf exclaimed involuntarily. Shut up. Eric's face turned black. Don't speak if you don't understand. I'm a professional mining engineer. This is nothing to me. All right. You can do your job. I'll keep quiet, Wolf said hurriedly. He had no temper. Wolf, do you see the darkest area in the middle? If I'm right, that is the exact position of the Chalcedony heart. Eric isn't cutting near that area yet, Bossa said. He seemed to have noticed something. Learn from Bossa. He might look rough, but Hes detailed. You don't know anything, Eric reprimanded him again. Wolf took a look and realized he was right. He felt a little embarrassed and awkward. It was so obvious, but he didn't notice it. That muscular Bossa was better than him. Mining engineer. Wang Ting whispered to himself in the dark. He didn't know that there was such an unpopular profession. It looked like the universe was more interesting than he had imagined. While Wang Ting was lost in thought, Eric had sliced off the exterior of the jade. A squarish piece was left. The jade's color was exceptional. It was extremely dense and bright. This was definitely an imperial-grade piece of jade. Moreover, it was huge. This was an expensive item. However, Eric treated it like a random stone found on the side of the road. He sliced it without batting an eye. The three martial warriors' gazes were fixed on the part of jade that was cut out. What do we do now? Bossa asked excitedly. We need to remove the outer layer. However, this layer is very close to the Chalcedony heart, so we have to be extra careful. Eric bent down and took out many tools from his space ring. Wang Ting was stunned. Was this what a mining engineer did? Was he a fake mining engineer? Wang Ting complained to himself. However, he still stared at Eric's hand to watch how he operated. Eric held the tools and started cutting and polishing the jade. He slowly removed the outer layer. There were many techniques involved in the process. He seemed extremely afraid of touching the Chalcedony heart in the center. Hence, he was exceptionally careful. Perspiration appeared on his forehead while he was working. 1. Chapter 780, Im Wang Ting from Earth. 2. Wolf and Bossa didn't dare to make any sound. They were afraid of interrupting him. Honestly, Wang Ting also felt nervous when he saw this scene. He was worried that Eric would damage the Chalcedony heart inside with a tremble of his hand. Suddenly, Wang Ting was stunned. He saw a few attribute bubbles dropping from Eric's body. Seriously? You can drop attribute bubbles now? Wang Ting was astounded. He hurriedly picked them up. Mining skill *5 mining skill *2 mining skill *1 As the attribute bubbles merged into his body, some basic knowledge of mining appeared in Wang Ting's mind. Mining skill. This was a skill that allowed him to locate mines and mine them. There was ample knowledge encompassed in this skill. It required an accumulation of experience over a long time, so this was a profound occupation. Eric might seem a little unconvincing, but the real mining engineer was extremely powerful. How powerful was he? You might not believe it, but a master-level mining engineer could locate a mine with one look. He could even detect what kind of ore was present in that mine. In this universe, this was a high-class and well-recognized profession. There were many planets in the universe with all kinds of mines on each of them. Some had more, some had less. Some were ordinary, some were precious. Hence, mining engineers were extremely important. After all, not everything could be detected by machines. Many special ores with strange energies in them would interfere with the mechanics of the machines, so they couldn't be detected. When the tycoons discovered a new planet, they would hire one or multiple mining engineers with huge salaries to scout the planet for ores. Also, many mining works needed the guidance of mining engineers. They might even do it personally to prevent damaging the value of the ores or stones. This was the value of mining engineers. Wang Ting was stunned. He didn't think that this profession was so useful. He started to view it with high importance. He looked at his attributes panel and saw a new secondary profession. Mining engineer, 8100, foundation. He got speechless upon seeing the 8 points of attributes. This Eric was too unprofessional. He dropped so few attributes. No wonder this fellow spent so much effort and took such a long time to slice this jade. I thought it was difficult, but he's just an amateur. Wang Ting thought to himself and shook his head. At this moment, Eric finally completed his work on the jade. He took out the Chalcedony heart. Holding the Chalcedony heart, Eric heaved a long sigh of relief. He said happily, I finally extracted it. Wolf and Bossa exchanged glances with each other. They wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads in unplanned unison. I don't want to look at Eric's mining anymore. It's torture. That's right. I won't look at it anymore. He still says that he's a mining engineer. He's not professional at all. Amateur. They used voice transmission to complain about Eric many times. But very soon, their mood changed. They stared intently at the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. The Chalcedony heart was like a jade egg. It sparkled brightly. The emerald green light it gave off was mesmerizing. Our ability will rise by a level with the help of this, Wolf said excitedly. I might be able to break through to the second-level planetary stage, Bossa said with enthusiastic eyes. What? You're about to achieve a breakthrough? Eric and Wolf were shocked. Yes, soon. Bossa nodded. In that case, let's go back and cultivate as soon as possible. Eric took out a jade box carved with lock runes and placed the Chalcedony heart inside. Just as he was about to keep the jade box, a change occurred. An invisible force intertwined around the jade box. Before anyone could react, the force pulled it over. The box fell out of his hand. Who is it? Eric was shocked. He shouted and wanted to snatch his box back. But it was too late. The jade box traveled more than 10 meters away in an instant. At the same time, Wang Ting's figure appeared from the dark. He reached out to grab the jade box and kept it in his space fragment without a second look. Thanks for your hard work. Wang Ting finally raised his head after completing the series of actions. He turned to look at the 3 candidates and gave them a smile. Who are you? Eric's expression was ugly. Bossa and Wolf also regained their senses. Their expressions changed when they saw Wang Ting snatching the Chalcedony heart. They glared at him in anger. Let me introduce myself. Wang Ting from Earth. Wang Ting was calm and composed. His expression remained the same even though he was facing 3 planetary stage martial warriors. An Earthling. The 3 candidates were stunned. They didn't think that the person who had snatched their treasure was an Earthling. Was he foolhardy or was he unafraid of death? Hand over the 1,000 years Chalcedony heart. If not, I'll make sure you'll suffer like hell, Wolf said with a look of disdain. His gaze turned sharp. Did anyone tell you that your green hair is quite pretty? Wang Ting ignored his threat and changed the topic suddenly. You're tempting fate. Wolf's expression turned ugly. His green hair had been laughed at by many people ever since he was young. When he grew older, he beat up everyone who had teased him before. No one dared to mock him again. He didn't think that one day, an Earthling would dare to laugh at him. It's all right. Your life will be better when you have a little green over your head, Wang Ting said. You'll know the benefits of having green hair in the future. Wolf's face turned black. Flames of anger almost shot out of his eyes. I'm going to kill you. He took a step out before finishing his sentence. Eric and Bossa wanted to pull him back, but it was too late. Be careful. He's trying to enrage you. Their expressions changed as they shouted. Wolf could no longer listen to their words. He had arrived in front of Wang Ting in an instant and smashed his palm on his head. Frightening force floated around his palm. Anyone's head would burst if they were hit with this attack, including planetary stage martial warriors if they were caught off guard. Wang Ting's expression didn't change though. He allowed the strong wind to ruffle this black hair. When Wolf's palm was less than half a meter away from his head, he finally looked up and released his fist. Boom! A terrifying force surged out within a split second. Wang Ting's fist landed on Wolf's heart. Boundless force smashed out of his fist like water from a broken dam. Wolf's expression changed. However, it was too late. Crack! A crisp sound came from his arm. His arm twisted like a braid, and his body flew back due to the impact of the force. He spurted a mouthful of blood. Bang! Wolf slammed heavily to the ground. An agonizing scream of pain escaped from his throat. Ah! Wolf! Eric and Bossa were shocked. They rushed over and held their companion up. Wolf's face was white. He was trembling from the pain. Are you all right? Bossa asked worriedly. My arm is broken, Wolf replied with a distorted expression. Who the hell are you? Eric was appalled. How could an Earthling possess such strength? He couldn't believe it. Wang Ting from Earth. Wang Ting put down his fist and repeated his words. You're really an Earthly, a human from Earth. Eric wanted to call him an Earthling, but he remembered his strength and changed his words. You guys look down on Earthlings, but you never imagined that an Earthling will come to kill you one day, right? Wang Ting asked. Their faces turned green with anger. Just as Wang Ting had said, they felt contemptuous toward Earthlings. Yet they were forced into a corner by an Earthling. How ironic. Wait, if you're an Earthling, why do you have a personal terminal? Eric asked. Oh, it's simple. I killed a candidate and got it, Wang Ting said nonchalantly. He smiled, revealing his white teeth. The 3 of them squinted. Waves of bewilderment crashed onto their hearts. Chapter 781. You're a divine spirit master. The 3 candidates stared at Wang Ting in astonishment. They didn't know if they should believe him. An Earthling had killed a candidate. This was absurd. The candidates had only been on Earth for a few days, and one of them had already died. This had never happened during the trials in the past. No matter what, the 3 of them wouldn't let him go so easily. What do you want? Eric asked with a grim expression. I came to kill you. Wang Ting replied with a smile. He sounded as if he was talking about a simple affair. The 3 candidates felt indignant. They were a bunch of planetary stage talented martial warriors. They had never been looked down upon by others. Yet this person told them that he wanted to kill them right in their face. Moreover, his tone was so casual as if they were nobodies. His attitude was infuriating. Eric, stop wasting time talking to him. If we attack together, he might not be our match. Wolf bore with the excruciating pain in his right arm and said viciously with bloodshot eyes. That's right. This person won't let us go. We can only fight. Boss's gaze was sharp. He gave off a frightening aura like a bear that had gone wild. It was terrifying. A huge double-edged axe appeared in his hand. It hung beside his thigh naturally, but one could tell that he was ready to act from the bulging muscles on his arms. Yes. Eric nodded. A sword appeared in his hand with force glow covering the entire blade. They were planetary stage martial warriors who had experienced many battles. Even though they knew that their opponent was powerful, they didn't panic or lose their confidence. Based on the ability he had displayed a moment ago, they had no chance of escaping. They would be killed by him if they did. Hence, they would rather fight for their lives. The three of them spread out in unplanned unison, surrounding Wang Teng in the middle. Wang Teng glanced at them and smiled. The curve of his lips ignited the anger of the three candidates. Kill. Bossa acted first. With a bellowed and a sharp glare, he took a step forward and wielded his double-edged axe. He formed a semicircle force glow. On the other side, Eric and Wolf acted too. Eric slashed his sword, shooting a sword glow toward Wang Teng's head. He wanted to chop his head off. Wolf's right hand was crippled, so he could only use his left hand to hold his gun, which was a rune weapon. As energy gathered in it, a force bullet hurled out, aimed directly at Wang Teng's lethal spot. The rune bullet traveled like light. It disappeared on the spot and appeared again in front of Wang Teng within a split second. He had fired his shot after Bossa and Eric, but it reached Wang Teng faster than theirs. Wang Teng felt a tingling pain on his forehead. He was surprised when he saw the force bullet spinning at high speed a few meters away from him. The power of this rune gun was greater than the rune guns made on Earth. He felt the energy in the rune bullet and realized that the bullets fired by this gun could hurt a planetary stage martial warrior. He didn't dare to take it easy and instantly released his spiritual power. Wang Ting compressed his spiritual power into a shield the size of his palm. It blocked the path of the force bullet. It wasn't hard for him to predict the path of the force bullet since he had mastered the gun kung fu. Bang! The force bullet erupted as it smashed into the yellow round shield. It left a deep hole, but it didn't break it. Bossa and Eric's attacks also arrived. Bossa's terrifying axe attack bore down on Wang Teng's head while Eric's sword cut through his throat. However, the two of them didn't show any signs of happiness. Instead, their expressions changed, and they retreated like a scared rabbit. They could feel that their attacks didn't land on anything. That was just a lingering shadow. They were flabbergasted and filled with disbelief. How did this guy disappear from their sight without any detection? This was unbelievable. A few sharp glows appeared behind them and silently targeted the critical parts of their bodies. Eric and Bossa squinted. They felt a sense of danger and dodged instantly. Swoosh. But it was still a little late. A sharp glow slit Eric's arm, leaving a trail of blood. Another 2 rays of light soared past Bossa's left ribs. If he had moved a step later, the sharp glows might have penetrated his body. Behind you. Wolf's agitated voice was heard suddenly. Wang Teng had appeared behind Eric and Bossa without any warning. He slashed Mokyu down, forming a blade glow in the air. Wolf's expression changed when he saw this scene. He gathered energy in his rune gun and fired 3 shots continuously. They charged toward Wang Teng at a weird angle. A cold glint appeared in Wang Teng's eyes. He used his spiritual power to control a few flying daggers to intercept the 3 bullets. The stronger your spiritual power, the stronger the attacking power of the weapons you controlled. Wang Teng's spiritual power was almost at the peak of the Imperial realm. Thus, the power of the weapons he controlled was similar to an attack from a planetary stage martial warrior. Blocking the force bullets was a piece of cake for him. Bang! 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 The flying daggers, which were spinning at high speed, collided with the force bullets under his control. Amidst a series of violent explosions, the rune bullets burst in mid-air. Divine Spirit Master. The 3 candidates finally saw Wang Teng's attacks. The words escaped their mouths in astonishment. "You're a divine spirit master," Eric shouted as if he had seen a ghost. Divine spirit masters were extremely rare in the universe. Every single one of them was a rare talent. The divine spirit masters who managed to climb higher on the martial path were even more frightening. They were almost invincible among their peers. Ordinary martial warriors couldn't fight with them at all. Bossa and Wolf's expressions were no better. They never imagined that there would be such a powerful divine spirit master on Earth. Eric looked at the flying daggers dancing around him and realized something. He was elated. "No, you have spirit, but you don't have a legacy. You only know the easiest skills like controlling objects. You can only release less than 20% of your true potential." Divine Spirit Master Legacy? Wang Tung frowned. The other party was right, he didn't possess any legacy. He had learned some skills from Gorlin, but they couldn't keep pace with his power, becoming a little useless. "Kill him. We mustn't let him grow stronger." Wolf's expression turned ruthless. There was jealousy in his eyes. "This fellow is extremely gifted. He can't be left alive," Bossa said grimly. "Kill." Their expressions were distorted. The talents Wang Ting had displayed made them envious and fearful. He was just an earthling. How could he possess the divine spirit master talent? Naive. "Even if I don't have a legacy, I can still kill you easily. Do you think you can stop me?" Wang Ting snorted. Killing intent poured out of his eyes. Chapter 782. The soil on the earth is fertile. Boom. Cold light shot out of Wang Tung's eyes. He strode forward and faced the three candidates. Numerous flying daggers turned into sharp rays of lights and danced around him at an unbelievable speed. Only lingering shadows could be seen. "Go." Wang Teng moved his thoughts, and the flying dagger moving at high speed abruptly disappeared. The three candidates felt their eyelids jumping when they saw this scene. Their vigilance was at an all-time high. They released their spiritual power to sense their surroundings. A planetary stage martial warrior had to have Imperial Realm spiritual power. Hence, none of their spiritual powers were weak. They could leave their body to sense the environment. They could even defend and retaliate when an external spiritual power invaded their consciousness. But that was it. They weren't divine spirit masters, so they couldn't utilize spiritual kinesis. Their spiritual power spun around the venue, but they found no traces of the flying daggers. They were worried and anxious. Wang Tung didn't care what they were thinking. He clutched his Mo Q and charged toward them, sending a flaming blade glow in Eric's direction. Boom! 8th level flaming blade conscious erupted, and frightening energy swept towards Eric. Eric was an earth element martial warrior. Seeing this attack, he knew how scary it was. He couldn't care about the flying daggers hidden around him and placed all his attention on handling this attack. A sword glow gathered on the battle sword he was holding. 9th level earth sword conscious. Boom! 2 sword glows crashed in mid-air, causing an explosion. Powerful force surged out. 3 cold glints appeared behind Eric, aimed respectively at his heart, throat, and head. Eric was appalled. He felt the threat of death hanging above his head. He released all the force in his body and formed many layers of defense shields around him in an attempt to block the lethal attacks. Bossa came in front of Wang Ting, swinging his double-edged axe and attacking him with rays of sharp axe glows. Wolf pulled the trigger of his rune gun like there was no tomorrow. Multiple rune bullets were fired, leaving a clear and translucent trail in the air. They blocked all the areas around Wang Ting. The events happened almost simultaneously. Eric was in danger, but Wang Teng's situation wasn't good either. No one knew who would win. Despite everything, Wang Teng remained composed. He punched his fist out. Strength of Ultima. Boom. A frightening fist aura shot forward, bringing along an indomitable force glow with it. Bossa's axe glow and Wolf's force bullets were all destroyed by his fist. What an easy feat. The powerful residual impact surged toward Bossa and Wolf. Splurt. Splurt. The two of them flew backward at the same time, vomiting a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. On the other side, Eric was resisting the onslaught of the flying daggers. The formidable constellation force formed layers of defensive walls around him. When a planetary stage martial warrior decided to go all out in defense, his defensive ability was quite astonishing. Wang Teng was distracted, so the 3 flying daggers under his control got stuck in mid-air, unable to move an inch. The scene overjoyed Eric. Right then, Wang Teng succeeded in pushing the other 2 candidates back and appeared in front of him. He slashed his weapon out. Boom. Crack tilde the defense walls cracked instantly. Eric was flabbergasted. He seemed to be hit by a powerful impact, and deep sword wounds started to appear on his chest. Fresh blood oozed out. His body flew back like a cannonball and slammed heavily on the stone wall. Within a few seconds, all 3 candidates had lost. Their faces were pale, and they found it hard to accept this result. Despite working together, they still lost to this earthling. Moreover, their attacks didn't even touch his clothes. This was humiliating. The 3 candidates were dumbstruck. They stared at Wang Teng in disbelief. The soil on Earth is fertile. You won't feel bad getting buried here, Wang Teng said calmly as he walked over with numerous flying daggers swirling around him. You. The 3 of them were appalled and indignant. They vomited another mouthful of blood. How dare you kill us? Wolf said with a gloomy expression. Why won't I? Wang Ting tilted his head and looked at him. The 3 of us have powerful backgrounds in the Olent Federation. The only thing you'll gain by killing us is endless trouble. Eric took a deep breath. He knew that this earthling was a tough fellow. There was no fear in his eyes. He wasn't easy to deal with, so he could only relax his tone. That's right, you can't kill me. My father is the leader of the Hailang mercenary group. Do you know what the Hailang mercenary group is? There's a large number of planetary stage martial warriors in the mercenary group, and my father is at the half-step celestial stage. He rules over a territory, Wolf said proudly. My background is powerful too. There's no benefit in killing us, Bossa said. The 3 of them kept adding value to themselves in hopes that Wang Teng would let them go. Someone told me the same thing in the past. He said that his family controls 3 life planets. I wonder how your backgrounds are as compared to his. Wang Ting touched his chin and asked with interest. The 3 candidates were stunned. Their hearts sank, and they had a bad feeling. 3 life planets. They were nothing compared to such a faction. From your expressions, you can't be compared to that guy, right? Wang Ting smiled indifferently. Do you know what happened to that fellow? What? Eric asked with a bitter taste in his mouth. Wolf and Boss's expressions were ugly too. They stared at Wang Ting intently, wanting to hear his answer. His personal terminal is on my wrist now. Wang Ting raised his left hand, revealing the personal terminal he was wearing. The 3 candidates couldn't smile anymore. They felt a chill running through their bodies, shooting from their spine all the way to their crown. This fellow was a devil. Friend, don't do this. Having more friends will bring you more opportunities. With your talent, you will be challenged by the other talents in the universe. Making friends with us will be beneficial for you, Eric said. Didn't you say that you wanted to kill me a moment ago? Wang Teng asked. No, we didn't. It's a misunderstanding, Eric explained hurriedly. However, he was interrupted before he could finish his sentence. Misunderstanding your head. Do you think him deaf? Wang Ting's expression turned cold. A golden brick suddenly appeared in his hand, which he smashed at Eric's head. Bang, bang, bang. Eric was stunned. He never expected to receive such inhumane torture. His eyes were filled with doubt and innocence. Wolf and Bossa were also dumbfounded. Their jaws dropped, almost hitting the floor. Wang Teng didn't let them go. He would receive more benefits by hitting more of them. Before they could react, the brick landed on their heads. After some time, all 3 of them were badly bruised. Their vision was blurred and spinning. They started questioning their lives. As planetary stage martial warriors, why were they receiving such treatment? Even if they were captives, they shouldn't be treated like this. Is this the distortion of human nature, or is it the decline of morality? Wang Ting disregarded them. He stopped after seeing the ground layered with attribute bubbles, putting his brick back. Get it? Imperial Realm Spirit * 25 Imperial Realm Enlightenment * 32 Constellation Force, Earth, * 350 Constellation Force, Metal, * 410 Imperial Realm Enlightenment * 20 Imperial Realm Spirit * 26 Constellation Force, Fire, * 469th Level Earth Sword Conscious * 850 Gun Kung Fu * 320 A large number of attribute bubbles merged into his body. Some turned into wisps of constellation force and entered the stars floating above the sea of nihility. Some turned into memories and knowledge, sinking in his mind and body. Constellation Earth Force. Constellation Metal Force. Constellation Fire Force. As these three forces entered his body, the three respective stars shone slightly before dimming and regaining calmness. The merging of Imperial Realm Spirit and Enlightenment invigorated him. At the same time, memories started to appear. Two outlines of humans popped up in his consciousness. One figure was practicing a sword skill. The yellow sword conscious wreaked havoc in the air. It was thick, solid, and firm. The other figure held a rune gun. Countless force bullets shot out of it, traveling in different directions and angles. Their path was unpredictable. Very soon, the two figures finished their showcase. Droplets of light entered his memory and turned into enlightenment. Wang Teng absorbed them. Earth Sword Conscious, 859,000, 9th level, Gun Kung Fu, 210,000, Gun Kung Fu, 1. Chapter 783, Spoils of War and Activities, 1. Wang Teng got surprised by the changes on his attributes panel. Then, his expression turned strange. Gun Kung Fu. How long had it been since he last saw it? How long hadn't he used it? It was unexpected that he managed to get this attribute from an alien martial warrior. What was this? Reunion after a long time? Reviving an old dream? Starting afresh? Starting again? Was the system reminding him that he should fire some shots occasionally? Wang Ting touched his chin and wondered to himself. He was honestly stunned. By right, the Gun Kung Fu attribute had been raised to the perfected stage. After getting more attributes, it advanced to the master level. Master level Gun Kung Fu sounds powerful. I wonder how I should use it. Wang Ting shook his head and temporarily put this thought down. Even if he had reached the master level, Gun Kung Fu wasn't very useful for him. The other conscious attribute helped Wang Ting greatly increase his ability. His Earth Sword Conscious was at the 9th level. It was getting closer and closer to the Ultima stage. Once he hit the 10th level, he would have a chance to reach Ultima. Of course, if Wang Teng was lucky, he could receive the Ultima directly and wouldn't have to spend so much time on it. Wang Teng felt that picking up attributes was better. He had 36 more luck points than a normal person, so he should have a good chance. After picking up the attribute, Wang Ting looked at the three candidates again. They were dizzy, but they held on firmly and didn't faint. They were staring at Wang Ting in fear as well as some hidden bitterness. Let us go and we can give you whatever you want. Eric made his final attempt. Wang Ting's spiritual power was extremely sensitive. He detected something wrong instantly and squinted. Smiling brightly, he said, "It's time for you to leave." The three of them were astounded. They hurriedly gathered the remaining force in their bodies and pulled themselves up. They wanted to escape. Wang Teng remained calm and looked at them reaching the entrance of the cave in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, he released 3 flying daggers. Splurt, splurt, splurt. 3 sounds of blades slicing up flesh were heard. The 3 candidates died before they could scream in pain. Their bodies dropped to the ground having lost all signs of vitality. They died unwillingly. These 3 candidates were all talented people. They had reached the planetary stage at a young age and their families were quite powerful. After receiving the right to participate in this trial, they had a bright future ahead. They would never have expected themselves to die on this underdeveloped planet, much less die in the hands of an Earthling. What a joke! They were filled with unwillingness and frustration. They died a terrible death. Wang Ting shook his head and picked up the attribute bubbles scattered on the ground. He wanted to catch them and beat more attributes out of them, but he decided against it after some thought. It was better to kill these 3 troublesome fellows earlier. Constellation Force, Earth, *1250 Ultimate Stage Earth Talent *200 Constellation Force, Fire, *1080 Ultimate Stage Fire Talent *185 Constellation Force, Metal, *1320 Ultimate Stage Metal Talent *210 Imperial Realm Spirit *115 Imperial Realm Enlightenment *108 Common Universal Language *320 Common Universal Language *280 Common Universal Language *310 Mountain Cleaver Battleaxe *350 Wang Teng received another round of attributes. The smile was tattooed on his face. Picking up Planetary Stage Martial Warrior's attribute bubbles was so refreshing. Look at them. In the past, it was so hard to get the Constellation Force. Now, each bubble contained more than 1,000 points of it. Wang Teng felt like crying when he remembered the 1 and 2 points of the Constellation Force he was collecting. Those were the difficult times. Fortunately, the struggle had ended. This was a huge leap of improvement. Also, the talents of the Planetary Stage Martial Warriors were all at the ultimate stage. Wang Ting had never seen anything below this stage. After gaining 3 ultimate stage talents, Wang Ting felt that he had become more outstanding and amazing. He felt like he was floating in the sky. The spirit and enlightenment were all at the Imperial Realm too, which allowed his spirit and enlightenment to rise quickly. He was only around 400 points away from a breakthrough. Then, there was the Common Universal Language attribute bubble. After these bubbles merged into his body, the knowledge of a special language appeared in his mind. Many words and symbols merged into his memory, becoming part of him. Common Universal Language, 10-1000, Small Achievement. He jumped the well-versed stage and went straight to the Small Achievement stage. Wang Teng grasped a language in an instant. He could say and write it without thinking, as if he had used it for many years. Before this, he needed to use the translation function of the personal terminal to understand the Common Universal Language. Now, he didn't need it. He had grasped this language. This was amazing. The last attribute bubble was unexpected. It was an axe battle technique. Although it was a planetary stage battle technique, the axe wasn't a weapon he would use. He had finally received a planetary stage battle technique, but he couldn't use it. Wang Teng was frustrated. Trying to picture himself wielding a huge axe and slamming it around him furiously, he shuddered. The image was too beautiful. He didn't dare to think further. Never mind, I will sell it in the future. Wang Teng shook his head and started making plans silently. Chapter 784, Spoils of War and Activities, 2. This was a planetary stage battle technique, so he could sell it for some money. Wang Ting had no idea that he was coming up with a plan that could get himself chopped. After picking up the attribute bubbles, Wang Ting looked at the corpses. He started to look through their bodies sneakily. He was a professional at this. After some time, Wang Teng received 3 space items and personal terminals. These were his spoils of war. He must keep them properly. He could use them when he roamed the universe in the future. Of the dead, say nothing but good. Go on. Wang Ting was prepared to leave when he remembered something. An emerald flame appeared in his hand. He flicked his finger, and it landed on the 3 corpses. Amid the sizzle of the green fire, the 3 corpses were set aflame. Wang Ting didn't give them another glance. He turned and left the cave. Very soon, the 3 corpses turned into ashes. In the sky, Wang Ting sat on Little White's back and flew in a certain direction. He took out the 3 space items. There were 2 rings and 1 bracelet. The owners of the items were dead, so the spiritual mark left on them also disappeared. Wang Ting was able to use his spiritual power to invade the items easily. Oh my, the space is huge. Wang Ting's eyes lit up uncontrollably when he entered the space. All the 3 spaces were around 500 square meters wide. This was his first time seeing such a huge space within a space item. These 3 candidates were indeed wealthy people. Wang Teng went through their belongings and discovered many good things. There was a small pile of energy stones in all the spaces. The color of these energy stones was darker than the ones he saw in the past. Wang Teng picked up one randomly and held it, sensing its energy. The force contained in these energy stones was more than 100 times of that in yellow rank energy stones. This must be a dark rank energy stone. He didn't know if there were many energy stones like this in the universe, but it was still a fortune. It was better than nothing. Besides the energy stones, there were some weird machines and luxury products. Wang Teng didn't place much attention on that stuff. His gaze landed on one particular item in Wolf's space equipment. It was a rune gun. Wang Teng examined it carefully. He realized that the runes on it were extremely complicated. They were beyond his understanding. He couldn't even recognize a majority of them. What is this? He suddenly felt ignorant. His face turned black. Damn it, I look so uneducated. He took a deep breath to force himself to calm down. Relax. Relax. No one knows anyway. Wang Teng pondered for a moment and activated his eyes of essence. He looked at the rune gun to see if he could see through the structure inside. He wanted to know what was the difference between this rune gun and the rune guns on Earth. The internal structure of the rune gun was laid out clearly before him under his eyes of essence. From the simplest gun barrel to the most crucial energy consolidation device, Wang Teng could see everything, even the material of the device. He was astounded by the complexity of the rune gun. Earth's rune gun couldn't be compared with it at all. They were leagues apart. It was like comparing the crude guns in the early days and the superior guns now. There was an entire generation in between. Of course, if there was no external intervention, Earth might not be able to reach this level of technology even after progressing for a few hundred years. Wang Teng stopped using his eyes of essence. He saw two strange words carved on the handle of the gun in the common universal language. Fortunately, Wang Teng knew this language, so he recognized the two words, Scorching Python. It was obvious that this rune gun was called Scorching Python. As a gun that had a name, it shouldn't be a mass-produced product. There must be a story behind this gun. Wang Teng wondered to himself and kept the gun. He took out the other two weapons of the remaining candidates. They were a sword and a double-edged battle axe. He realized that these two weapons exceeded the boundaries of a 9-star soldier-level weapon. Their strength and sharpness had surpassed that level. He took out his Mo Q. It looked a little tragic now. When he was fighting with the blue-haired young man, Mo Q didn't get destroyed, but it wasn't in a good state either. There were many marks left on it. You could see the material inside the weapon in some parts of the sword cuts. His weapon couldn't keep up with his ability anymore. Wang Teng shook his head. He suddenly thought of something. Oh right, I still have the blue-haired young man's space equipment. He remembered that the blue-haired young man used an ice blue sword. It had wounded his beloved Mo Q. It looked like the level of the sword was above Mo Q. Wang Teng immediately brought out the blue-haired young man's space ring and instilled his spiritual power into it. He scanned the space and discovered many energy stones. He didn't look at them though. Instead, he searched for the ice blue sword and took it out. This is a good sword. Wang Teng compared it with Eric's sword. He felt that this ice blue sword was sharper and more powerful. I'll use you from now. Smiling, he swung the sword gently. The battle sword gave a soft ringing tone. He kept the other weapons and stared into the distance. Little White, well go to Country Neon. Little White cawed and flapped its wings. It headed quickly in Country Neon's direction. For some reason, Little White was still unable to speak even though it had reached the 10-star low-tier lord level. It could only communicate with Wang Ting through the spiritual pet contract. While Wang Ting was heading to Country Neon, the other alien invaders scattered on Earth discovered a situation. On their personal terminal, the spots that represented Country Glow, Country Silo, and Country Anan had all turned blue. It became the same color as Country Shia. This meant that the three candidates from those three countries had either died or submitted to the other party. They had lost their right to continue this trial. Those three candidates had failed. This was the first failure of this trial, and 3 of them had appeared at once. The other candidates went into deep thought when they saw this situation. What happened there? No matter what, the other candidates started to fear the candidate from Country Shia. Of course, those powerful candidates who had conquered large masses of land only took a small note of it. They didn't take the incident to heart. White Eagle Nation. A golden-haired young man sat on a huge throne in a large alien spacecraft. He blinked and smiled with interest. Then, he opened his mouth and said, "Send someone to Country Shia. I want to know the situation there." Yes. A figure appeared out of nowhere and received the order in a respectful tone. He half-kneeled on the ground and then disappeared once again. "How's our takeover of this country going?" the golden-haired young man asked again calmly. "We have controlled all the states in this country and killed anyone that dares to disobey us. We left no one out." Another figure appeared in the hall and replied respectfully. "Good." The golden-haired young man nodded elegantly. "We can start expanding." Yes. The people below disappeared. Country Star, on Mount Saint. The young lady with long green hair was also looking at her personal terminal. She smiled. "Continue the fight. This is just the start." Alaise was beside her, but she didn't care. She even purposely showed it to her to let her know what was happening. There was a flash of emotion in Alaise's eyes when she saw a change in Country Shia. She asked, "What are you planning to do?" "Guess." The young lady with long green hair chuckled. "Seriously?" Alaise turned her head away without a change in her expression. She knew that this young lady wouldn't be explaining to her, so she didn't bother to ask again. "Wait and you'll know. Stay by my side and learn from me." The green-haired young lady brushed Alaise's long hair and curled it around her finger. Her tone was flirtatious. Alaise was rendered speechless. She felt that this lady was a bad influence. 1. Chapter 785, No Title. Country Neon. Country Neon was situated on a sizable island. It was surrounded by water and was a sea away from Country Shia and Country Gaosha. Wang Teng sat on Little White's back and skimmed across the boundless sea at the speed of lightning. Only a trail of shadows could be seen. A faint coastline had appeared in front of them. Because of Little White's appearance, a shrill siren suddenly sounded on the land. As a country surrounded by the sea, it placed a huge emphasis on its defense mechanism. If not, it would have been invaded by the numerous sea beasts in the sea. What a poor island country. It was said that this small country had suffered more than 10 sea beasts riots ever since the dawn of the martial arts era. The sea beasts would get more terrifying each time. The most recent sea beasts raid was 6 months ago. Country Neon lost 8 general stage martial warriors and countless low-rank martial warriors in the battle. This was the greatest loss over the past few years. The only fortunate thing was, there weren't any signs of dark apparitions in their small country. Their situation would be more arduous if that were the case. There was a shortage of resources in Country Neon. The main reason why they were able to linger on with their last breath of life for so long was because of the White Eagle Nation. They received some aid from them. But they needed to give some things in return too. For instance, they would send their martial warriors to the dark apparitions' dimensional rifts in the White Eagle Nation and help the country defend against them. There were many other cases. They were just the frontline warriors groomed by the White Eagle Nation. Country Neon wanted to migrate to the White Eagle Nation, but the other party wasn't that stupid. They wouldn't usher a wolf into the house, even if the wolf wasn't as powerful yet. Wang Teng had read up about Country Neon in the past. As the information floated into his mind, he heard the blaring siren, causing a frown to appear on his handsome face. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a violent explosion came from the coastline. Rays of light shot towards them from afar, closing in on them at a frightening speed. They gave off an intense energy fluctuation. Wang Teng didn't even bat an eye, remaining cool as a cucumber. He had no intention to move. One core. A look of contempt flashed past Little White's eyes. It gave an ear-piercing screech. Then, it opened its dark red beak and spurted out a ball of emerald flame. Boom. All the rays of light exploded when they collided with the green flame. Then, they got swallowed by the ball of fire. Swoosh. Little White passed through the roaring flames as if they were non-existent. An instant later, it had arrived above the coastline. The flames didn't leave any marks on its body. Its crimson-black feathers seemed to be made of steel. They gave off a cold and sharp glimmer under the sunlight. Star Beast. Lord-level Star Beast invasion. Damn it, why is there a Lord-level Star Beast here? There were many defense structures built along the coastline. Different heavy rune weapons were placed on the fortress made of metal. Yet they didn't give any sense of security to the people below. The low-rank martial warriors stared at the giant crow in the sky in astonishment. They were in a mess. A lot of noise came from the people below. They were speaking in Country Neon's language. Their tone sounded a little strange. Open fire. Fire the cannon. Bring it down. Thunderous explosions were heard once again. Rays of force lights shot into the sky continuously, submerging Little White. We hit it. The martial warriors were elated when they saw this scene. Troublesome. Wang Teng opened his eyes. There was impatience in his gaze. Little White, destroy all the military buildings below. Caw. A furious screech rumbled in the sky. The cheers of the martial warriors from Country Neon stopped abruptly as if their throats had been choked by an invisible hand. Then, a frightening ball of flame plummeted down from the sky. It destroyed the ray of light in front and went on with a powerful force. Before the scorching heat even arrived, many pieces of equipment below had already started melting. Boom! The next moment, the emerald flame crashed into the ground. All the rune weapons blew up, and the military buildings were enveloped by a sea of fire. Screams of agony rose into the air. How dare you! An angry roar came from afar. A 10-meter-long and narrow blade glow arrived seconds later. It slit the air, aiming straight for Little White's head. It's General Dubian. Great, General Dubian is an 11-star general stage martial warrior. The Star Beast is dead. The martial warriors below started cheering again. Wang Teng snorted softly. He waved his sleeve, and a terrifying force swept out. The blade glow paused in mid-air, freezing there forcefully. Then, it exploded and scattered with a bang as if it had suffered a huge hit. Fart. The general stage warrior who came fiercely vomited a mouthful of blood. He was flabbergasted. He made use of the frightening impact and turned to run away without any hesitation. His speed was even faster than when he came. Silence. The martial warriors below turned eerily silent. General Dubian ran away. They couldn't accept this truth. Stunned and confused, a wave of despair swarmed into their hearts. Wang Teng was caught between laughter and tears too. He disregarded this clown and ordered Little White to head to the capital of Country Neon, Pingxiang City. The martial warriors were in tears after they realized they had survived this ordeal. They couldn't understand what had happened. This Lord-level Star Beast left them and flew away. Was it playing around? No, there's someone on the Star Beast's back. It's heading to Pingxiang City. The martial warriors finally realized what had happened. Their expressions changed as they exclaimed. Pingxiang City. This was the capital of Country Neon and where the palace of the emperor was situated. At this moment, there was an alien spacecraft floating above the city. This alien spacecraft was quite special. It looked like a huge piece of scrap. There were large pieces of metal boards on it as if someone was fixing a broken roof. However, it was hard to tell what metal they were. Their colors were all different. Some had rust, some were brown, others were black, yellow. It looked like a patchwork quilt. Below the alien spacecraft, in a resplendent and magnificent hall situated in the palace, a fatty had taken over the throne that used to belong to the emperor of the country. He was sitting comfortably on the giant seat, seemingly enjoying himself. A few beautiful ladies from Country Neon were massaging and feeding him. A middle-aged man stood respectfully some distance away from him. This was the emperor of Country Neon. He looked at the fatty with hidden anger in his eyes. In the middle of the hall, a lady was hung in mid-air. Ropes were tied around her body in an indescribable way. All her sensitive parts were bound tightly, making them conspicuous. A strange-looking alien creature was circling the lady. Yes, circling her. The upper half of this creature looked like a human, but its lower part was filled with tentacles. They kept moving restlessly. The lady was terrified. There were tears welling down her eyes. Her cries were filled with sorrow as she shouted weakly, "Please don't, Tilda." Chapter 786, Haddock, Jin Yuan. Pitiful screams and cries of agony would resound in this extravagant hall occasionally, bringing tears to the listeners. The emperor felt the muscles on his face throbbing when he saw this scene. "Haddock, you have a bad sense of humor." The fatty sitting on the throne saw the emperor's expression from the corner of his eyes. He sniggered. "Hey Tilda, my friend, don't you think that this country's language is very pleasant to the ear? Look at the way she's screaming. It's mesmerizing." The human octopus in the middle of the hall hugged himself and moaned with a look of satisfaction. "You're right. It's not bad. It sounds like the language on a Seba star." The fatty, Jin Yuan, touched his chin and replied, "Ha ha ha, let me play for a while longer." Haddock looked at the lady tied up in midair and released his evil tentacles. He felt around her chest and waist. "No, Tilda." The lady gave an ambiguous and enchanting cry again. "Haddock, we need to get down to business soon," Jin Yuan suddenly said sternly. "Are you planning to attack country Shia?" Haddock stopped moving his tentacles and turned to look at the fatty on the throne. "That martial warrior is not easy to deal with. Didn't you see? He has dealt with 3 other candidates just recently." "Yes, I saw it. The change in the personal terminal is huge. How can I miss it?" Haddock didn't look good either. He continued, "It looks like that candidate is hard to handle. Shall we change our location? When I landed on this planet, I did my research and have a brief understanding of the talents that participated in this trial. If I'm right, the candidate in that area is Lan Feng from the Lan family. He's at the 3rd level of the planetary stage. We can fight with him if we work together." A smart glint shone in Jin Yuan's eyes. "That sounds a little troublesome," Haddock muttered. "This trial was never simple. Compared to other people, I prefer to face a conceited and wealthy young man like Lan Feng," Jin Yuan replied. "How confident are you?" Haddock nodded. Jin Yuan remained composed as if he was extremely confident in himself. "Not much, 50%. Why are you being so confident when it's only 50%? Haddock was furious. The tentacles below him swung violently as he roared in anger. "Ha ha ha, 50% is high enough. We need to be confident in ourselves." Jin Yuan scratched his head and said with a smile. "Seriously?" Haddock scoffed in anger. The emperor at the side was confused. Jin Yuan and Haddock were speaking in the common universal language, so he didn't understand a thing. He only saw them starting to quarrel at the end. He didn't know what happened. Just when the emperor of country Neon was turning mad, a loud explosion occurred. Boom! The entire hall trembled. A large number of wooden shards and stone fragments fell, and a huge hole appeared on the roof out of the blue. There were burnt marks around the hole. The next second, scorching heat waves floated in from outside. "What happened?" the emperor of country Neon exclaimed. "Huh!" Jin Yuan and Haddock frowned. They exchanged glances with each other before looking up simultaneously. "Huh! There are 2 candidates." A soft voice was heard. Jin Yuan and Haddock's expressions changed. "Candidate." They immediately knew that their opponent was another candidate. They didn't even need to think. "Come out. How long are you guys planning to hide?" The same voice came again. Jin Yuan and Haddock started to get serious. They got up at the same time, and a sharp glint flashed across their eyes. They charged forward, but they didn't leave through the hole. They smashed another hole at the side of the hall and flew out. The emperor's expression was complicated. He left the hall hurriedly and looked into the sky. 3 figures were floating in the sky. 2 of them were Jin Yuan and Haddock, while the other person was sitting cross-legged on a huge crow and staring at the fatty and the half-octopus. "It's him." The emperor was a martial warrior, and he wasn't weak. He had reached the 11-star general stage, so he recognized Wang Teng at a glance. He was familiar with Wang Ting. After the Global Exchange Conference, Wang Ting had entered every country's eyes. He had investigated him before, so he was extremely familiar with him. However, he never thought that Wang Ting would appear here. And it looked like he was challenging the two aliens from the universe. The Emperor of Country Neon was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe his eyes. Had the guy gone crazy? Why did he dare to fight with these two martial warriors? Didn't he know his own ability? But soon, he noticed that the two alien martial warriors looked grim when they faced Wang Ting. It was as if they were facing a formidable warrior. What's going on? The Emperor was astounded. Did they see wrong or misunderstand something? Wang Ting's only at the general stage. Swoosh, swoosh. Many other people had noticed the commotion here. A few figures rushed over from afar, almost all of them general stage martial warriors. They were the foundation of the nation. One of them was an old friend of Wang Ting. It was Shunai Tongji, who had participated in the Global Exchange Conference. Emperor, Emperor. The martial warriors greeted the Emperor. At ease. The Emperor waved his hands. Wang Ting. Shunai Tongji looked into the sky and saw Wang Ting's figure at once. Thunderstruck, she asked the Emperor impolitely, "What's going on?" The people around them were used to this. They stared at the ground. They weren't in any position to interfere in the matters of this father and daughter pair. "Why are you here?" The Emperor's expression changed as he reprimanded her softly. "I'm already here. What's there to be afraid of?" Shunai Tongji said calmly. What if the two of them see you? You know their fetish." The Emperor felt his head throbbing when he remembered their hobby. He was agitated. "Quick, go back before they see you." "No. Hurry up and tell me what's going on." Shunai Tongji wouldn't listen to him, asking him impatiently. "It looks like you won't give up until you hit the wall." "All right, I'm not going to care about you anymore. You will suffer when the time comes," the Emperor said angrily. "So naggy." The Emperor shook his head. He noticed that everyone was looking at him, so he gave a forced smile and said, "I'm not sure about the details. I only know that Wang Ting from Country Xia suddenly appeared. He came specially for these two aliens." Everyone was appalled and confused. Chapter 787, Stupid Fatty, the situation is unfavorable. Is Wang Ting looking for the two aliens? One of the general stage martial warriors hesitated before asking. From his stance, I think so. That is insanely bold of him. Where did he get his courage from? Oh right, isn't Country Xia overtaken by aliens too? Why is he here? Someone finally reacted and asked the crucial question. Everyone turned silent. The Emperor's expression changed slightly. An absurd thought popped into his mind. The other people also regained their senses and thought about the same thing. They stared at one another with astonishment in their eyes. There was a beautiful and charming lady with an amazing figure standing among the crowd. Bewildered, she stared at the figure in the sky in a daze. It's him. The lady almost wanted to cover her face and run away. She never wanted to face this young man again, yet he appeared. What bad luck! The lady wanted to cry. She was so frustrated that she wanted to vomit blood. She felt that she had entered the lion's den again. Wang Ting didn't notice the reaction of the people below. His gaze was fixed on the two candidates before him. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. This combination of a fatty and an octopus was a little out of his expectations. The other candidates he saw all looked like humans. He almost forgot that humans weren't the only race in the universe, there were others too. The alien that was caught and locked up by Country Xia was from another race. Similarly, the Plato beings in his space fragments were different too. Thus, it wasn't strange for him to meet an octopus monster now. The universe was huge. Anything could be found there. You couldn't blame him for looking a little strange. "Young man, what are you looking at?" Haddock glared at Wang Ting upon noticing his weird gaze. "Why can't I look at you?" Wang Ting's lips rose at a sinister angle. "Try looking again." Haddock was infuriated. "I'm looking. Do you want to hit me?" Wang Ting stretched out his arm and hooked his fingers at the other party. "Ah, damn it." Haddock was furious. The tentacles below his body grew, and he swung them towards Wang Ting like long whips. Bang! Along with a sonic boom, powerful airwaves shook the space. Wang Teng turned serious. He kept Little White in his space fragment. It wouldn't be able to participate in a planetary stage battle. A sweep of the tentacle was enough to turn it into a pile of bird meat. But Wang Teng wasn't afraid. He jumped up and the ice-blue sword appeared in his hand, drawing a dazzling sword glow in the sky. Flames burned and soared towards the thick and long tentacles. Splurt! The moment they made contact, the sharp and scorching sword glow chopped the tentacles into two. Fresh blood spilled out. The blood was green. Haddock screamed in pain and retracted his tentacles. He was dumbstruck. Stupid fatty, is this what you mean by 50%? 50 your head, he turned and shouted at Jin Yuan. Oh my god, he isn't Lan Feng. I don't know where he came from. There's no record of him in my data, Jin Yuan bellowed. What should we do now? Do we continue? Haddock asked agitatedly. Yes. Well, fight together. I don't believe that we can't beat him. Jin Yuan gritted his teeth. Two large metal maces appeared on his hand. He wielded them violently and shouted, Go! Kill him! Damn it, I'll have to give it my all. Haddock was afraid of Wang Teng, but Jin Yuan had already charged forward. He stopped hesitating and placed weapons in all his tentacles. There was even a rune gun. He flung his attacks at Wang Teng. Receive my attack. Jin Yuan twirled his maces. His fat body didn't hamper his agility. This was another fatty that moved like the wind. When he leaped into the air, yellow shadows appeared around his maces. The shadows were as heavy as a mountain. He slammed them down on Wang Teng ferociously. Wang Teng frowned. Instead of using the sword in his right hand, he released his left fist. Strength of Ultima. Boom. A frightening sonic boom occurred before the force hit the maces. Clang tilde, a dull metallic tremor echoed in the air. The people from Country Neon standing below felt their eardrums vibrating too. They couldn't hear any other sounds. How is that possible? Jin Yuan was astounded. His eyes were wide open as if he had seen something unbelievable. This person was able to block his double mace attack. How frightening was his strength? Kill. Haddock had arrived in front of Wang Teng. All his tentacles were holding weapons, and he swung them at Wang Teng. The force bullets fired from the rune gun blocked all paths of retreat for Wang Teng. Are you trying to compare who has more hands? Wang Teng's gaze turned sharp. Killing intent shot out of his eyes. In an instant, with a single thought in his mind, the spiritual power in his consciousness surged out and turned into numerous invisible hands. These invisible hands controlled the flying daggers and started fighting with the weapons on Haddock's tentacles. He also gathered some force into a shield to block the force bullets. Some of his spiritual power turned into the shape of a rope and spun around Haddock. Divine Spirit Master. Haddock screamed as though he had seen a ghost. Stupid fatty, the situation is unfavorable. This fellow is a monster. A little later and we will be dead already. He resisted Wang Teng while retreating. However, at this moment, an invisible force intertwined around his body like a chain, limiting his movements. Jin Yuan already knew how powerful his opponent was. It exceeded his expectations. After taking Wang Teng's blow, he made use of the impact and flipped in the air before bolting. Haddock's face turned green. He shouted, Damn it, fatty, save me. Haddock, I want to save you, but I can't even save myself now. Let's just hope for the best for ourselves. Jin Yuan continued running away without turning his head. His fat body was like a ball. He rolled away as his voice floated over from afar. Haddock felt so frustrated that he wanted to vomit blood. Although he knew that the fatty was like this, he still felt like cursing when he abandoned him and ran away without any hesitation. He also understood that he could only rely on himself now. He struggled frantically and released all his force as he tried to break free from the grip. Wang Ting looked at the fatty strangely as he ran away. The next second, he took a step out and disappeared on the spot. Boom! A loud explosion was heard. The fatty in front suddenly bounced back like a ball as if he was hit by a large force. His fat body slammed heavily on the ground and destroyed an entire building. Clouds of dust flew into the air. The Emperor of Country Neon and the other general stage martial warriors widened their eyes in shock. Their faces were filled with astonishment and disbelief. Chapter 788, Doing 18 Things at Once. Have those two aliens been defeated? Are you kidding me? Those are formidable martial warriors from the universe. How can they lose to Wang Teng? This doesn't make sense. Damn it, this doesn't make sense at all. The general stage martial warriors from Country Neon were stunned. Their mouths remained agape for a long time. They couldn't accept this result. No matter how much of a genius Wang Teng was, he was still a talent from Earth. He couldn't be compared to the formidable warriors from the universe. Yet reality proved otherwise. They stared at the young man who fought with two universal martial warriors alone and defeated them thoroughly. It felt like a dream. This talent from Country Xia was trying to defy the universal rules. The Emperor's expression was complicated. The two aliens he viewed as the hope of their country lost to Wang Ting. At first, he planned to make use of these two aliens to push Country Neon into the universe and leave this underdeveloped planet. Compared to the technology and martial arts civilization in the universe, everything on Earth was nothing. Who would have thought that this could happen? Wang Teng from Country Xia broke his beautiful dream and showed him the reality. This fellow has reached such a high stage. Shunai Tongji was astounded. She stared intently at Wang Ting with her bright eyes. Even after taking a few deep breaths, she couldn't calm down. On the other side, the lady who knew Wang Ting shrunk her body, afraid of being recognized. She wanted to run but somehow, she didn't. Unexpectedly, she saw this appalling scene. This young man was indeed an abnormality. He wasn't a normal person. Haddock was astounded when he saw Jin Yuan crashing to the ground. That fatty might be weak in other areas, but his escaping ability was top-notch. It didn't matter though. He got caught up and thrown to the ground. How powerful was this young man? He didn't dare to move either. He realized that he couldn't break free from the grip around him. No matter how hard he struggled, it was in vain. He might even provoke the other party and end up in the same situation as the fatty. Boom! The collapsed building trembled. Jin Yuan staggered as he crawled out from the debris. His face was covered with dust and his clothes were torn and tattered. There were many wounds on his body. He looked miserable. Damn it, we met someone more powerful than us. This is the first time I have failed in my life, Jin Yuan muttered angrily as he spat out some blood from his mouth. Ha ha ha, fatty, why aren't you running? Continue to run. Haddock gloated. Are you happy to see me suffering? Jin Yuan scolded. We'll go through thick and thin together. After all, we're good brothers, Haddock chuckled. Go away. I'm not your brother, you tentacled monster, Jin Yuan snapped back. Wang Teng looked at them with interest. He had met a few candidates, but all of them begged for mercy when they realized they couldn't escape. Yet, these two aliens didn't seem to care. They even had the heart to argue with each other. What a strange duo. He shook his head and released his spiritual power to collect the attribute bubbles dropped by the two aliens. Constellation Force, Earth, *360 Constellation Force, Water, *420 Imperial Realm Spirit *32 Imperial Realm Enlightenment *28 Raging Battle Mace *1018 Tasks Multitasking *20 As the attribute bubbles merged into his body, Wang Teng was stunned. He didn't know where to vent his frustration. Raging Battle Mace. This was another planetary stage battle technique. Battle techniques were good. But the problem was, why was this another battle technique suitable for muscular hunks? One mountain cleaver battle axe and one raging battle mace. Was the system afraid that he wasn't masculine enough? Wang Ting froze on the spot. The edge of his lips twitched a few times. He tried to picture himself holding a battle axe in one hand and a mace in another, wielding them and chopping his enemies into pieces. The scene was quite beautiful. No, I mustn't use these battle techniques. I'll sell them when I have the chance. Wang Ting shook his head and promised himself. Then, his attention landed on another attribute: 18 tasks multitasking. What kind of strange attribute was this? After the attribute bubble merged into his body, he understood the use of this skill. The first thing he did was to count the number of tentacles on the octopus monster. Very good, there were 18 tentacles, not one more, not one less. Silence. Was this how this skill came about? Wang Teng couldn't be bothered to complain anymore. 18 tasks? Why don't you call it 18 touches? Wang Teng felt that this technique was useless for him. He didn't have 18 tentacles. Wait, he didn't need to use them on tentacles. Wang Teng suddenly thought of something. He was only looking at the surface. He needed to delve deeper into this technique. The biggest use of this technique was thinking. Yes, thinking. To put it simply, it was able to let a person think of 18 tasks at once or launch 18 attacks simultaneously during a battle. Thinking of 18 things at once and launching 18 attacks in unison was a little frightening. Wang Ting's eyes lit up suddenly. He felt extremely smart since he had thought of the crux almost immediately. The octopus monster's attacks were too plain. He attacked solely using the weapons. If not, Wang Ting wouldn't have been able to defend himself so easily. However, Wang Ting was different. He possessed multiple forces and knew countless battle techniques. If he could execute them simultaneously, his opponent would feel despair. I thought this would be a useless technique, but it's actually a rare treasure. Wang Teng was elated. At this moment, Jin Yuan looked up and shouted at Wang Teng, "Brother, what do you want to do? Come down and tell me about it." Wang Teng lowered his head when he heard him. He noticed that the other party didn't seem frightened of him. He lifted the corners of his lips. He wasn't in a hurry to reply. He moved his thoughts and controlled spiritual power to pull the octopus monster who was a distance away. Boom! Before Haddock could react, he started plummeting down like a shooting star. He slammed to the ground a few inches away from Jin Yuan. Haddock's 18 tentacles danced and twitched furiously in midair. He looked like an octopus that was stepped on the ground. Jin Yuan raised his eyebrows as he glanced beside him. His composed expression was gone, and his heart dropped. Oh my God, where did this evil man come from? We can talk properly now, Wang Ting said with an ambiguous smile. Ha! Ha ha, my friend, we can talk properly. There's no need to act. I was just joking. Jin Yuan smiled in embarrassment. He rubbed his palms and gave a frightened expression. Chapter 789, Abandoned Star M3. In this world, some skills could be learned without any teaching. For instance, admitting defeat. The fatty was timid. However, he didn't think that he was a coward. To him, he who understood the times was a wise man. Nothing wrong with that. Thus, he displayed his most humble side to Wang Ting. He lowered his back and made himself look extremely harmless and innocent. Silence. Wang Ting looked at him with a strange expression. He saw a part of him on this fatty. Oh my God, this fatty is copying me. The thought suddenly popped up in Wang Ting's mind. He started to sympathize with this fatty. Fat. How could he sympathize with fatty? He must have lost his mind. Wang Ting shook his head to fling this absurd thought out of his mind. He had removed his spiritual power, so Haddock was finally above able to move. He crawled up from the ruins. He looked at Wang Ting with a trembling gaze. He put on a similar inferior and cowardly look on his face and said, "I think we can discuss properly. There's no need to fight to the ends of the world. We don't have to be enemies. We can win together by cooperating with one another." Another one. Wang Ting was speechless. He saw bits of himself on this octopus monster too. This fellow was as unique as the fatty. No wonder they were good friends. Shut up. Wang Ting couldn't stand their shamelessness. He glared at them and asked, "Tell me about your background." Jin Yuan and Haddock looked at each other. Then, Jin Yuan opened his mouth and explained first, "I'm the eldest son born to the first wife of the Jin family from Taco Planet. Do you know the Jin family? They possess the development rights of 2 life planets. The family head, who is my grandfather, is a celestial stage formidable warrior. He's a boss-level figure. Wang Teng's expression didn't change. He tilted his head towards Haddock. I'm from the Labrod planet. I'm the son of the head of the celestial Python clan. My father is the most powerful person in the clan. He's at the celestial stage too, Haddock said proudly. Wang Ting touched his chin. For some reason, he felt that these two fellows were bullshitting. Although they spoke seriously and there were no loopholes in their words, he could sense a strange aura. These two aliens were definitely lying. Wang Ting believed in his gut instinct. You're not lying to me, are you? If you do, you will have hemorrhoids on your butt and tumors on your head. They will rot, so you better speak the truth. Jin Yuan and Haddock felt the corners of their eyes twitching slightly. This man was so evil. So you have anything else to say? Wang Ting asked. They shook their heads in unison. I have an ability that can make you speak the truth obediently. Why don't you have a taste of it? Wang Ting sniggered as he glanced at them. Brother, are you kidding? It's not right to delve into other people's privacy, Haddock stuttered. He was shocked. Idiot. Jin Yuan cursed in his heart. He knew that they were dead. Indeed, you're not being honest. Wang Ting didn't waste any time. A flash of red light shot past his eyes and stabbed into Haddock's. This fellow was stupid, so it was easier for him to get affected. As expected, Haddock only struggled for a second before his consciousness got controlled by the bewitched skill. Jin Yuan was flabbergasted when he saw this scene. He had a bad premonition. How could he have such a skill? Oh my god. We're dead. He wanted to wake Haddock up, but he didn't dare to move when he saw Wang Ting smiling at him. Brother, I think this isn't good. We can talk properly, Jin Yuan said weakly. I want to speak properly with you, but you guys didn't cooperate. It can't be helped. Wang Ting shrugged. F***K, so it's our fault. Jin Yuan complained in his heart. He was shocked by Wang Ting's shamelessness. This fellow was worse than them. Come, tell me where you are from. What's your identity? Wang Ting asked Haddock. We're from the abandoned star M3. We don't have any status. We are just low-level citizens that escaped from the abandoned star, Haddock replied honestly. Wang Ting was surprised. Abandoned star M3. There was such a place in the universe. Abandoned planet. It looked like these two people had stories on them. As expected, they were spouting nonsense. Eldest son of the Jin family? Son of the head of the celestial Python clan? That was all fake. Fortunately, he was smart and saw through their lies. H, you're too naive if you think you can fool me. Wang Ting glanced at Jin Yuan. He was covering the frustrated look on his face with his hands. Based on what I know, it's not easy to get the right to participate in this trial. You probably don't the right. That's simple. We heard of this trial and ambushed two candidates along the way. We killed them and gained their spots. A candidate's spot can be snatched, Haddock replied. Not bad. Wang Ting gave Jin Yuan a thumbs up. He thought that all the participants of this trial were descendants of elite families in the universe, but there were two anomalies inside. You're too polite. Jin Yuan laughed awkwardly. Do you think I'm complimenting you? Wang Ting snapped back. Jin Yuan became embarrassed. He stopped talking and stood obediently at the side. Wang Ting questioned Haddock again and gained a lot of information from him. Then, he stopped his bewitched skill. His eyes shimmered, and he went into deep thought. Haddock woke up and stared at Wang Ting with a pale face. There was fear in his eyes. He knew what Wang Ting had done to him. Brother, are you planning to kill me? Jin Yuan looked at Wang Ting carefully and noticed his indifferent expression. He continued hurriedly, killing me won't do you any good. We have some small skills that might be useful to you. Keeping us with you is better than killing us. We can leave the trial, so we won't be of any threat to you. Oh, you can leave the trial? Wang Ting asked. Of course. Jin Yuan was afraid that Wang Ting would go back on his words, so he didn't think why Wang Ting didn't know this simple piece of information. Instead, he immediately started operating his personal terminal. Look, I've already given up the trial. Wang Ting glanced at the fatty curiously. He lowered his head to look at his personal terminal and saw an announcement. Candidate number 15 gives up the trial. Chapter 790. Brother, your long-lost little brother candidate number 15 gives up the trial. A line of words written using the common universal language appeared on the personal terminal. The words were red and extremely eye-catching. Wang Ting wasn't the only one. The other candidates had probably seen it too. He was amazed. This fatty did give up his chance. He was so decisive that Wang Ting had to view him in another light. This fatty wasn't a simple man. Me too. Me too. Haddock didn't want to be left behind. He hurriedly operated his personal terminal. Candidate number 22 gives up the trial. Another line of red words appeared. Haddock's decisiveness was no weaker than Jin Yuan's. Wang Ting was speechless. These two were weirdos. This chance was extremely important to other people, but to them, it was just a piece of trash they could throw away at any time. They gave up so easily. Even more, they were fighting to give up their spot, afraid that they would be a step too late. But they weren't humans. Wang Ting squinted. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. These two candidates had given up their position in the trial. By right, his motive was achieved, so he didn't have a reason to target them anymore. However, he didn't have much trust in the aliens from the universe. Should he just kill them? After all, dead people were the safest. He could pick up more attributes from them too. Wang Ting was eager to move. However, at this moment, he heard a cautious voice beside him. Brother, what do you think about this? Wang Ting glanced beside him and saw the fatty's timid look. He was caught between laughter and tears. Why should I keep you? Wang Ting asked. We're useful, very useful. I specialize in collecting information and this tentacled monster is an analyst. He can multitask. His brain runs faster than a normal guy, Jin Yuan said hurriedly. Wang Ting glanced at them curiously. These two weirdos had specializations. He remembered the 18 tasks multitasking attribute dropped by the octopus monster. They should be speaking the truth. Wang Ting touched his chin and nodded. That's quite useful. Brother, you're our boss from now on. If you point to the left, we won't go to the right. Jin Yuan immediately gave his promise when he noticed they had a chance. That's right, boss. We are your long-lost little brothers. Haddock was even more outrageous. He stretched his tentacles out and wanted to hug Wang Ting. Go away. Wang Ting glared at him. These two weird aliens were even more shameless than him. Their skin was so thick. Their ability to grasp an opportunity was perfect. Did they study it in school? In the end, Wang Ting decided to keep them. In this era, talents were important. It wasn't easy to find people like them, so he would keep them under observation. It wouldn't be too late to kill them if he learned they had other thoughts. Wang Ting was extremely confident in his ability. He believed that he could deal with two first-level planetary stage martial warriors. Besides, they were two timid rats. Wait for a while. You'll return to country Shia with me later. Since he had made his decision, Wang Ting didn't waste any time and gave them his response. The duo's eyes lit up, and they heaved a sigh of relief. They felt fortunate. Their lives were finally saved. Wang Ting disregarded them and turned to look at the people from Country Neon. His gaze paused on Shunai Tongji for a second. Then, he saw a person who kept retreating in an attempt to hide herself. Long time no see, Miss Swatian Laihua, Wang Ting said with a mysterious smile. The lady froze. The other people from Country Neon were stunned. They followed Wang Ting's gaze and looked in her direction. You. The emperor glanced at the two of them in surprise. He suddenly remembered that Swatian Laihua was the one who brought back the news that Wang Ting had annihilated the Zhonli clan. However, she never mentioned how she learned of it, so he didn't think that there was any interaction between them. From the looks of it, there seemed to be something going on between them. Senior sister, do you know him? Shunai Tongji asked curiously. Laihua, what's the matter? A scrawny elder beside them opened his mouth and asked. This elder was normal-looking, but he held a high position in country neon. He was the famous yin-yang master of country neon, Anpei Yuan-san. He had grasped many secret scriptures of the yin-yang family. He was Shunnai Tongji and Zhuotian Li Hua's master. A hint of hesitance flashed past Zhuotian Li Hua's eyes. However, she had to reply to him. She said in a respectful tone, "Master, I didn't make it clear to you in the past, but I had some dealings with him." "Oh, since you know him, go out and meet him. Why are you hiding at the back?" Anpei Yuan-san said. This, Zhuotian Lihua was in a dilemma. Lihua, Wang Ting is extremely powerful now. Even the universe martial warriors aren't his match. If you know him, you can interact more with him and build a better relationship. The emperor spoke to her using voice transmission. Zhuotian Lihua's expression turned even bitter. She felt that she was so unlucky. She didn't have any good relationship with Wang Ting. She gave him her spirit core and finally found a way to escape when he wasn't noticing. Yet, they were asking her to follow him again. How ironic. Zhuotian Lihua wanted to cry. She was so frustrated that she felt like vomiting blood. "Why are you hiding? We haven't seen each other for such a long time." Wang Ting walked over with a smile. "What do you want?" Zhuotian Lihua knew she couldn't hide anymore. She gritted her teeth and stood up. "One of my little pets ran away and I caught it. How should I punish her?" Wang Ting asked in a teasing tone. "You, don't go overboard." Zhuotian Lihua's face turned pale. She had suffered the burning of her soul when she escaped the previous time. Just the thought sent shivers down her spine. She didn't want to experience it again. "What is this?" The emperor and the other martial warriors noticed that something wasn't right. Their relationship wasn't what they thought it was. "I'm not speaking to you all," Wang Ting glanced at them and said indifferently. The emperor and Anpei Yuan-san were stunned. They had always treated Wang Ting as a formidable martial warrior on earth, so they didn't respect or fear him that much. When they saw his reaction, they finally understood. They finally understood how stupid they were. He was able to defeat 2 universe martial warriors, who were now following him obediently. In comparison, what were they? Shunnai Tongji stood behind the emperor and felt dejected. She was a little unconvinced when she lost to Wang Ting during the Global Exchange Conference. She hoped that one day, she would have a chance to fight with him again. But his ability had surpassed her greatly, and she was tossed far behind by him. She couldn't even bring herself to compare with him. Chapter 791, I'm not the same as you. Wang Ting didn't know what Shunnai Tongji was thinking. Even if he did, he wouldn't care. He had already thrown the older generation of Earth martial warriors far behind him, much less his peers. No one in this generation could catch up with him. This was the hard truth. This was the sorrowful truth too. On this planet, the only people that could pique his interest were these candidates. Shunnai Tongji felt bitter. She stared at Wang Ting with a complicated gaze. However, she had to step forward and lower her position. She said humbly, "Mr. Wang Ting, my father didn't intend to offend you. If he provoked you in any way, let me apologize in his place. I hope that you won't blame him." Wang Ting was surprised when he saw this arrogant young lady putting down her pride and speaking politely to him. He waved his hand. "Forget it. Don't interrupt me again." We won't, the emperor replied hurriedly. "I'm at fault for disturbing you." Anpei Yuan-san bent his back slightly. He sighed in his heart. Wang Ting ignored them and turned to walk towards Haddock and Jin Yuan. Just when Zhuotian Lihua thought that Wang Ting had forgotten about her, she heard his calm voice. "Catch up." Zhuotian Lihua's expression changed slightly. She gritted her teeth, but she didn't dare to disobey Wang Ting. She looked at Anpei Yuan-san and said, "Master, I'm leaving." Anpei Yuan-san sighed. He didn't know what to say, so he could only nod. Zhuotian Lihua bowed to Anpei Yuan-san and quickly caught up with Wang Ting. "To country Xia," Wang Ting ordered. Jin Yuan and Haddock raised their wristwatch and did some operations on it. In an instant, a thick ray of light shone down from the spacecraft hovering in the sky, enveloping the 4 of them. The next instant, they disappeared. The spacecraft filled with patches vibrated. It turned into a ray of light and disappeared on the horizon. It moved so quickly that the people on the ground couldn't even see how it disappeared. After the spacecraft left, the people from Country Neon felt empty in their hearts. The alien martial warriors whom they viewed as their hope were gone. They left without reluctance. They were like heartless lovers who left their girlfriends without any hesitation. The Emperor's expression turned distorted. Wang Ting's arrogance and impudence had stabbed him in his heart. He was the emperor of a country, yet Wang Ting didn't give him any face. How could he not be furious? He lowered his head earlier because he had no other choice. He didn't dare to provoke a powerful martial warrior like Wang Ting. But it was still infuriating. Your Highness, we mustn't make him our enemy. Anpei Yuan-san noticed the emperor's expression. I know. The emperor took a deep breath to force himself to calm down. He continued with a stern face, I won't do stupid things. However, I feel sorry for Zhuotian Laihua. I wonder what treatment she will receive after following Wang Ting. Anpei Yuan-san turned silent. He prayed that Wang Ting wasn't a sadist. Don't worry. Wang Ting isn't that kind of person. Senior sister might suffer a little, but she wouldn't be tortured. Shanai Tongji comforted them. I hope so. Anpei Yuan-san nodded. On the spacecraft, Wang Ting sized up the interior in astonishment. He didn't think that the inside of this ragged spacecraft would be so extravagant and comfortable. Did you steal this spacecraft? Wang Ting sat on the sofa and asked Jin Yuan and Haddock. How is that possible? Jin Yuan replied loudly as if he was humiliated. We spent much time and effort to build this spacecraft. We didn't steal it. You are our boss and you can question our character, but you can't question our skills. That's right, we spent 10 years building this spacecraft and used her to escape from the abandoned star M3, Haddock added. Wang Ting was shocked. He didn't think that they would get so riled up. All right, I said the wrong thing. He shook his head and asked, didn't you say that you collected the information of all the candidates? Tell me about them. Haha, this is what we are good at. Jin Yuan chuckled. Out of the blue, he shouted, Alice. Yes, master. I'm here. A hologram appeared in front of them. The voice was sweet and cute. Wang Teng's expression turned strange when he saw the hologram. Zhuotian Laihua, who was standing behind him, felt the corners of her lips trembling. She inched her way to the side to stay as far away as she could from Jin Yuan and Haddock. This hologram was the image of a sexy maiden with cat ears. Her figure was amazing, and there was a furry tail stuck behind her. It was seductive when she waved it back and forth. The most important thing was, this sexy maiden was scantily clad. Her clothing barely covered the important parts of her body. This was a goddess-grade temptation to most otakus. You have good taste. Wang Ting coughed softly and gave them a thumbs up. Jin Yuan and Haddock were overjoyed, thinking that they had earned Wang Ting's recognition. They replied in unison, I didn't know that you had the same taste as us. We're indeed brothers. TSK. Zhuotian Laihua clicked her tongue softly, glancing at Wang Ting with contempt. This fellow was a bad guy too. Silence. Wang Ting was exasperated. He was screaming in his heart. What the hell do you mean? I'm not the same as you. F***K, why are you framing me? I should have beaten y'all to death. Jin Yuan and Haddock didn't know what happened, but they felt a chill in their hearts. They glanced around them in confusion and noticed Wang Ting's grim expression. Astounded, they stared at him with caution. Did they say something wrong? Start the introduction already. Why are you daydreaming? Wang Ting took a deep breath and said angrily. Oh, okay. Jin Yuan nodded his head fervently. He rearranged his thoughts and said, Alice, bring out the data. Yes, master. Alice gave a seductive pose and obediently carried out Jin Yuan's order. The ray of light disappeared, replaced by rows of data. There were numerous profile pictures displayed around the spacecraft. They looked no different from the real person. Jin Yuan cleared his throat and was about to start his speech. Boom. Suddenly, the The spacecraft vibrated violently. Alice, what's happening? Jin Yuan frowned and asked. He was planning to give a spectacular display of his ability, but he was interrupted before he could even start. Master, there are sea beasts attacking our spacecraft, Alice said. Which sea beast wants to die? How dare it attack us? Jin Yuan was angered. There's more than one. The sea below is densely populated with sea beasts. There are countless of them, Alice continued calmly. Chapter 792, A Strange Sea Beasts Riot. Alice, are you making things difficult for me? Jin Yuan was speechless. No, Master. There are really many sea beasts below. They're attacking us like crazy, Alice replied. The spacecraft shook violently as if to confirm its words. Show us what's happening outside, Jin Yuan frowned and ordered. We're not introducing the candidates anymore? Alice asked. Let's take a look at the situation outside first. Wang Ting was speechless too. Is this the right time to introduce the candidates? This intelligence system of the spacecraft seems a little stupid. Wang Ting complained to himself. Listen to the boss and show us what's happening outside. Jin Yuan felt guilty. This intelligence system was dismantled from another abandoned spacecraft. Although they had managed to put it into use after much effort, the technology level was still lacking. Alice was honestly a little stupid. Brainless with a good figure. This was probably how one would describe it. All right, my master. As an AI mascot, Alice executed its master's order obediently, even though he had labeled it as brainless. Suddenly, the pictures of the candidates disappeared, replaced by terrifying images. The boundless sea was densely packed with sea beasts. They were fighting to emerge from the bottom of the sea and hurling powerful force attacks into the sky. Most of these sea beasts were below the Lord level. However, there was a huge number of them, so their combined attack was still formidable. It shouldn't be underestimated. There were also a few giant Lord-level sea beasts lying flat on the surface of the sea, blocking the spacecraft's path. A giant octopus waved its thick tentacles that were more than 100 meters long in the air. They swung towards the spacecraft like long whips. There was also a giant sea serpent that had a body as thick as a pillar twirling in the sky. Its large tail lashed down and landed on the top of the spacecraft, giving off a loud bang. The commotion a second ago was caused by the attacks from these two Lord-level sea beasts. Mind you, a spacecraft that could travel through the universe was anything but ordinary. Its defense mechanism was amazing. Numerous runes blinked on the surface of the spacecraft, forming an oval light shield. The attacks only caused a slight tremor when they landed on it. They didn't hurt the main body of the spacecraft at all. Wang Ting stood up and frowned slightly. Boss, don't worry. They are just Lord-level sea beasts. We can destroy them easily. Jin Yuan patted his chest confidently. Fatty, leave the octopus to me. I need to nourish my body. Haddock was staring straight at the octopus on the screen. His eyes were shimmering. Why don't we have barbecued octopus tonight? Jin Yuan suggested with glistening eyes. Holding all my hands up in agreement. Haddock nodded. Cough, let's take care of these sea beasts first. Wang Ting swallowed his saliva secretly and coughed. Zhuotian Laihua was speechless. He just swallowed his saliva. She saw it clearly. Why was this fellow still thinking of food at this time? What a foodie. Zhuotian Laihua was extremely worried about the situation of Country Neon. As an island, the emergence of these sea beasts would be a huge threat to it. However, no one noticed her expression. She had no right to speak in front of 3 planetary stage martial warriors. The 3 martial warriors left the spacecraft and flew out. These sea beasts were nothing to mighty fighters like them. Kill. Wang Ting scanned the sea below with a sharp glint. He didn't forget what had happened during the sea beasts riot in Donghai. But he wasn't who he used to be. Since these sea beasts came to find him, he would kill them. At this moment, the Lord-level sea beasts in the sky noticed the trio. They ignored the spacecraft and charged toward them instead. The octopus was a 12-star Lord-level sea beast. It lashed its tentacles out, bringing along a strong gale with it. Wang Ting held his sword and gave it a simple slash. A glaring golden light flashed past. 8 tentacles were thrown into the air and landed on the surface of the sea. Roar! The Lord-level octopus bellowed in pain. It looked extremely funny without its tentacles. Oh my, it's almost wasted. Haddock had nimble fingers. He quickly swept the 8 tentacles into his space ring and smiled at Wang Teng. Boss, these tentacles are delicious. Wang Teng glanced at Haddock's tentacles and suddenly felt respect for this fellow. An octopus monster eating another octopus monster didn't he feel weird? Wang Ting shook his head. He had no time to care about him. With a stab of his sword, he ended the octopus life. He allowed Haddock to keep it. Kill all the sea beasts and return to country Xia at once, Wang Ting ordered Jin Yuan and Haddock. He was worried that something bad had happened in country Xia. The appearance of these lord-level sea beasts was too sudden and strange. The surface of the sea was packed with sea beasts. Even though he had killed a lord-level sea beast easily, the other sea beasts showed no signs of retreating. They continued attacking them crazily. This wasn't normal. Yes. Jin Yuan and Haddock didn't dare to laze around when they saw his serious expression. They acted immediately. To planetary stage martial warriors, killing these sea beasts was a piece of cake. Soon, the majority of the sea beasts were dead. They had cleared an empty space 100 meters in diameter around them. The corpses of the sea beasts sunk into the bottom of the sea. The blood-stained surface of the sea was the only evidence of the terrifying massacre. Wang Teng glanced around him. He released his spiritual power and pulled over all the attribute bubbles in a split second. Water Force *150 Water Force *185 blank attribute *110 blank attribute *140 Poison Force *210 Deep Sea Breathing *10 Lightning Force *160 blank attribute *200 Deep Sea Breathing *10 Ice Force *420 Water Force *240 Constellation Force Water *125 Constellation Force Earth *140 A huge amount of force started flowing through Wang Teng's body. The 2 constellation force sunk into the sea of nihility and merged with his earth and water stars. The other forces, including the lightning force, ice force, and poison force were all common force attributes in sea beasts. They remained in Wang Teng's force nucleus. These forces hadn't reached the planetary stage, so they hadn't formed the force bridge to reach the sea of nihility. Since his water force had turned into constellation water force, even the ordinary water force was stored in the water star, waiting to be converted into constellation force. It couldn't be helped. The star beasts on Earth didn't possess constellation force. Wang Teng had to convert them personally. Fortunately, all his planetary stage scriptures were at the perfected level. He could complete the conversion quickly. Although it was an ordinary force, the force he absorbed through the attribute bubbles was the purest and most concentrated. It could save him half of his cultivation time. Chapter 793, Whale Fall. Wang Teng's Ice Force, Lightning Force, and Poison Force rose by a large amount. Both the Ice Force and Lightning Force, which were at the peak of the 10-star Brigadier General stage, advanced to the 11-star General stage. Ice Force, 3650 20,000, 11-star, Lightning Force, 4260 20,000, 11-star. His Poison Force was still stuck at the 11-star General stage, but there was an increase too. It wasn't far from hitting the 12-star General stage. Poison Force, 16800 20,000, 11-star. These 3 forces had seen sharp improvements. You could imagine how many sea beasts there were. It was terrifying. Unfortunately, no other elements appeared. Wang Ting was still a little greedy. Besides the force attributes, he also gained a sizable number of blank attributes. Blank attributes were a good thing. He relied on his pile of blank attributes to raise his cultivation to the planetary stage. Blank attribute, 36500 this time, he had gained more than 30,000 blank attributes at once. Adding his past tally, he had a total of 36,500 points. Having a huge reserve of blank attributes made him feel at ease. Finally, there was a special skill, deep sea breathing. Just as its name suggested, it was a skill that would allow you to breathe in the sea. Wang Ting had collected this skill during the sea beasts riot in Donghai. This was the second time it had appeared. Deep sea breathing, 31,000, first rank, first rank. Wang Ting wondered to himself. He found this interesting. This first-rank deep-sea breathing skill allowed him to breathe underwater without any external help. It was a useful technique. What if he raised it to the second rank, third rank, or even higher? Wang Ting smiled and dropped the matter. After taking care of the sea beasts around them, no other sea beasts appeared again. They might have been scared by their ruthless slaughter. The three martial warriors boarded the spacecraft and headed for country Xia. At this moment, in country Xia, Nanhai, as well as the coastline of Donghai, were all suffering from the attacks of numerous sea beasts. That wasn't all. In all the mountain ranges, forests, lakes, and rivers, countless star beasts started to get restless and rushed towards the nearest human city. Villages, cities, highways, all the places with human presence were targeted by the star beasts. Frightening beast tides swept through every inch of the country. All the martial warriors in the country were activated. They rushed to the places with star beasts and started fighting with them. Ample heavy weapons were set up and battlecrafts were launched. They bombed large areas of land to resist the beast tide. Jingmen was the largest port city in country Xia and was linked to various grand canals and the mouth of the sea. It was the hub of the river and sea. However, this geographical location was the most advantageous for the advancement of the sea beasts. Boom, boom, boom. Violent explosions came from afar. The sea beasts bellowed and attacked Jingmen City using the Grand Canal, starting their massacre. Force attacks destroyed countless buildings. Humans cried in despair as they fell into the debris. Their voices were soon overpowered by the roars of the star beasts. This scene looked like an apocalypse. The leader of martial arts and his men hurried over with the military martial warriors. They were doing their best to resist the sea beasts while organizing manpower to rescue the ordinary people. This star beasts riot came without any warning. Their numbers were astonishing, and they covered the entire country, catching everyone off guard. The leader and his subordinates had to make arrangements hastily. They sent martial warriors to reinforce all the cities that were suffering the star beasts' assault. Boom! In the skies of Jingmen, the leader of martial arts was fighting with an enormous giant whale. This giant whale exceeded the size of the biggest whale that had ever been found on Earth. It was a few hundred meters in length and looked like a large aircraft carrier. The waves rose in the sea, pushing the giant whale up and allowing it to stay in mid-air. The leader of martial arts was holding a long spear. His expression was indifferent as he soared through the sky. Force erupted and struck the sea horizontally as he collided with the giant whale. The giant whale didn't back down. It flapped its tail and released a colossal wave. Bang, bang, bang. The wave erupted while an indomitable spear glow pierced through the air. It was aimed straight at the giant whale's body. Roar! A thunderous bellow shook the eardrums of the listeners. It didn't sound like the song of a whale anymore. The appalling sound waves echoed in the air. At the same time, a powerful blue pillar of light shot up and smashed into the spear glow. Boom! The two of them crashed and released a violent explosion. The powerful impact swept throughout the sea. The giant whale slammed its giant body forward. The leader's expression changed. He released his fist, and a huge golden palm print landed on the whale, forcefully stopping it in its path. The giant whale's ability was between the peak of the general stage and the planetary stage. Although it hadn't reached the planetary stage, it was extremely powerful. Yet, it was stopped by the leader of martial arts and couldn't take another step closer to land. The human and the beast collided brutally at the junction between the sea and the land. It was a scary sight. In other areas, countless sea beasts were charging toward the human martial warriors' defense line. The other martial warriors weren't as powerful as the leader, so they kept retreating under the sea beasts' offensive. The sea beasts won in numbers. The human martial warriors were only able to withstand until now with the help of all kinds of rune weapons. If not, Jingmen City would already have fallen. Boom, boom, boom. On the other side, Dan Taixian was fighting with a lord-level sea beast. This sea beast was a hideous-looking monster. It didn't look like any animal that could be found on Earth, and it was frighteningly powerful to boot. From the aura it exuded, one could tell that it was a 12-star lord-level sea beast. Wang Teng would never forget how Dan Taixian took care of him, so she was one of the first to receive the planetary stage scripture from him. Dan Taixian was a double-element martial warrior, possessing wind and fire force. Wang Teng didn't have a wind force scripture on him. He could only pass her the fire force planetary stage scripture, the starfire scripture. Her ability rose exponentially after practicing the starfire scripture. She had already reached the 12-star general stage, and most of the force in her body had been converted to constellation force. She had the upper hand against the sea beast. The sea beast was retreating continuously under her onslaught. Flames burned on her fists as she hurled them at the sea beast. It cried in pain continuously. Right then, roaring waves suddenly shot up in the sea below. A large and thick tentacle came out like a javelin, aiming straight for Dan Taixian. Dan Taixian had her back toward the tentacle, so she only felt a strong gale blowing against her back. Without any time to think, she instinctively shifted to the side. Bang! The tentacle changed from a stab to a sweep when it failed its first attack. It hit Dan Taixian's body, throwing her off her feet. Splurt! She suffered a heavy blow and vomited a mouthful of blood. Her face turned pale. Boom, boom, boom. The surface of the sea erupted again and numerous tentacles shot toward her, attempting to crush her to death. Dan Taixian's expression changed. Force gushed out of her body as she got ready to fight for her life. Go away. At this moment, she heard an angry shout. A figure appeared in front of her and punched towards the sea below. The water parted, and a giant deep-sea squid was thrown out of the sea forcefully. It was more than 10 meters long and was almost as huge as the whale. However, its body had exploded from the fist and turned into a flesh rain. Dan Taixian was stunned. As she calmed down, all she saw was the familiar and tall figure in front of her. Are you all right? Wang Teng turned and looked at her. There was concern on his face. This brat. For some reason, Dan Taixian's eyes turned slightly red. She shook her head hurriedly to hide her emotions. She said agitatedly, I'm fine. Go and help the leader. There are too many sea beasts. A large part of the city has fallen in less than half an hour. Many people are dead. Don't worry. I'll send these bastards to hell now. Wang Teng nodded and went silent. Intense killing intent burned in his eyes. The next instant, he disappeared. Boom. The leader was battling with the giant whale when Wang Teng appeared out of the blue. He released a terrifying sword glow that slit the air into two. The giant whale was thunderstruck. It could sense danger and the threat of death inching toward it. It roared, and force erupted from its body. Large waves crashed into the sky. Layers and layers of waves rose behind it, reaching 100 feet in height. It was trying to block the sword attack. However, the giant wave was like a piece of paper in front of the menacing sword glow. It got torn into two, revealing the body of the giant whale behind. Swoosh! Within a split second, the sword glow slashed down, and a sword mark appeared on the enormous body of the whale. The sword mark cut through the whale's entire body, from the head to the tail. Fresh blood turned the surrounding water red. Boom! The giant whale's eyes were filled with disbelief and unwillingness. They gradually lost their vitality. The gigantic body was chopped into two, and it plummeted into the sea, forming large waves like a tsunami. It was terrifying. Then, its body sunk into the bottom of the sea and disappeared. Whale fall. The leader had retreated some distance away. He held his long spear and stood there with astonishment in his eyes. Was this the power of the planetary stage? He was sincerely dumbfounded. He had seen Wang Teng attacking before but never so directly and at this close range. He finally understood how vast the difference was between the general stage and the planetary stage. Sigh. Not far away, Dan Taixian was in or two. She thought that Wang Ting would need some time and effort to deal with that giant whale, but all he required was one sword attack. One slash and the giant whale died. How frightening was that sword move! The sea beasts around him, including the human martial warriors, were stunned. They stared at the corpse of the giant whale as it sank into the sea. All voices were lost for a moment. Wang Ting, it's Wang Ting. He killed the giant whale. We have hope. Ha ha ha, this is great. We are saved. Everyone regained their senses, and an earth-shattering cheer erupted. God of martial arts. God of martial arts. Someone started shouting this nickname. Within a few seconds, the cheers turned into resonant chants, reverberating in every corner of the city ruins. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.